open to anyone, all around the world. The Chess.com Global Championship offers the dream of playing against the best. And hey, have we mentioned there's also $1 million at stake?
The total pot is $1 million.
No, that is not a typo. The prizes are unbelievably generous.
We began with thousands of players. Now only dozens remain.
There it is.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Eric Hansen!
This is crazy.
Eric Hansen moves on to the round of 32 in Armageddon fashion.
The CGC knockout phase has arrived. There are those who played their way in, and some are here thanks to their well-earned reputations. No matter who you are, things are about to get very, very real.
What did I just literally doing? What?
A trip to the CGC finals and a clean shot at the largest first place prize of the year. My friends, it's the CGC round of 64. Who will take the next step to Toronto?
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Chess.com Global Championship Knockout Round of 64. Today is our second day of exciting chess. Yesterday we capped off a bracket killer of a day, obviously with Eric Hansen defeating Lequang Liem toward the end of our show. I'm Levy Rosman, that's Robert Hess. And Robert, how was that day one of games for you?
Honestly, you couldn't have scripted it any more exciting. We started off with an Armageddon match between Nihal Sarin and Rauf Mamedov, and Nihal showed us his bullet prowess, winning with just a few seconds on his clock. And then, of course, in the later session, we had two matches go to Armageddon. The Chess Bra makes it through to the next round, as did many other strong competitors. That's what happens in this field. Nobody is weak. So, Levy, day two promises to be just as exciting.
Yeah, this was the group I was the most excited about when they offered a broadcast slot. I said, yeah, I got to get into this one where 4 of the 8 players are world champions, and one of them was nearly a world champion. You can't script up this group any better. We have to get through a few of the logistics of the event, so let's go take a look at that first. Just a reminder of the format. It's single elimination knockout. This is everybody's favorite type of chess format. I'll say it's my favorite type of chess format. I think, Robert, I speak for you as well. Time control is 15 minutes with 2 seconds bonus, and it is a 4-game match. So if you win 2.5 out of the 4, then you move on in the knockouts. But if you don't, there is an Armageddon. Now, this is new, right? I don't know if this has been implemented. I'm sure it's been implemented somewhere in some event, but the players actually bid for minutes on the clock to get the draw odds with the black pieces in the Armageddon. Robert, how many minutes did Nihal start with yesterday with black?
He started with 11 minutes. That's been the popular bid thus far, is around the 11, 12-minute mark. But without increment levy and your opponent getting 15 minutes in the white pieces, that's proven quite scary. But as we saw yesterday, Nihal Sarin, Eric Hansen, Jose Martinez, they all made it through in Armageddon. So it's a whirlwind of a format, but it's been really, really a fun thing to behold.
Yeah, it's going to be tough to beat guys who are 3,000 rated in bullet in time scrambles. Of course, yes, being down 4 minutes is substantial, but that is the format. It's a very interesting bidding format for the Armageddon. Of course, our field, 64 players, there's 8 groups. You do the math, 32 were invited because when you've made a successful chess career, you oftentimes do get invitations and seeded into things, but we also had a brutal qualification stage. I mean, honestly, it was like the Hunger Games. And 32 people qualified their way in to now try to beat those that received the invitations to the event. We have Hikaru, Duda, you see them there, Wesley So, Fabiano, Nepo. I can't believe Nepo's 5th on that list, but I guess they did it based on the groups. I feel like Nepo should have been 2nd, but I guess Nepo's in Group E, so it makes a little bit of sense. You see it right there, folks. I mean, so many different types of world champions. In fact, the most stacked group is the one in front of you today. That's Group F. Let's take a look. I did the bracket preview for this one. I was so pumped. I mean, I was just honestly so excited for this group. Robert, any thoughts?
Any thoughts? I have too many thoughts.
All right, let's hit me.
Well, you look at this group from top to bottom, and when the number 8 seed in the group is Ju Wenjun, who is capable of knocking out Anish Giri, you know it's going to be a fun time. And, well, look at these two matchups in the middle here. Veselin Topalov, FIDE world champion, Raunak Sadhwani, who was born the year that Topalov was world champion, and you have the world rapid champion, Abdusattorov. As you mentioned, Boris Gelfand almost knocked out Vishy Anand, who's also in this group in over-the-board classical play for the world championship title. So all of these names have a shot, and don't count out, he may be the least known player in the group, but Pavel Ponkratov, he's made a name for himself in the online sphere. He's been a great grandmaster for a long while now. So Levy, from top to bottom, there's not a single name that you can say has no chance here.
Yeah, it's just an unbelievable group. I'll say it once, I'll say it again. Whether you give the edge to Nodirbek, who is literally the reigning defending champion of the world in the rapid format, of course, they don't play 15+2 whenever they have the World Rapid and Blitz, but it doesn't really matter. He has obviously been crowned as the best player in the world at this specific type of chess, but you also have guys who have been the overall champions of chess in the world. Literally every matchup here has a story. So, okay, get it off the screen, or else we're going to talk about it for the entire show. We got to tell you about the prizes. Just for qualifying, you make a nice little $5,000 prize fund. Making it to the round of 32 is 10, and then obviously it goes higher and higher depending on how you finish. But $1 million in prizes, so very exciting. Robert and I used to battle for $100 first place at Marshall Chess Club. I think Robert's won. You won a few opens. I feel like you won a few opens, and I think just for making it to the round of 64 in this event, Robert, you would even get more than that. So.
You certainly do. The prize fund is very high here. It's a lot of excitement for sure, based on vying for the title and the money. But we have these 5 matchups today, Levy. You said get it off screen. Of course, they bring it back because we also are adding Maxime Vacher-Lagrave against Eduardo Iturrizaga. So if you didn't have enough from the Group F,
we get dessert.
We get dessert with Maxime and Eduardo. And, okay, you don't need to say more than 3 letters when you're talking about Maxime Vacher-Lagrave.
Yeah, you literally don't. MVL is an acronym just etched in history, and that forever will be the Frenchman with, is it 3 names? I think he goes by 3 names, or is it 2 names? But Frenchman with 3 names. That matchup from Group H will also be added today. That's more of a scheduling thing. I think one of them I think they had to play today. But yeah, you have 5 exciting matchups in today's round, and the bracket contest. So we're super excited. We had 10,000 bracket submissions. If you've never filled out a bracket, it's as simple as it sounds. You pick people who are going to win in every matchup, and we were going to give the person that won a perfect bracket $100,000. 99% of people lost after yesterday because Eric Hansen decided to show up and fulfill my prediction. Let it be known, and beat Le Quang Liem. So now I think we only have like 300 or 400 people who have the opportunity to win $100,000. Before our games today, we have a super cool preview video. Shout out to the production team who's made a few of these for the players. Let's go watch one for Raunak Sadhwani.
Impressively, one of 5 junior players from his country rated over 2,600. At age 13, Raunak Sadhwani became just the 9th youngest grandmaster in history. Sadhwani has momentum coming off a memorable performance this summer at the 44th Olympiad, in which his team of outstanding youngsters were able to defeat the top-seeded United States and ultimately grab the bronze medal. Competing in play-in number 9 of the CGC in late July, Sadhwani foreshadowed his success to come in the Olympiad, notching 8 of the 9 available points.
Oh my gosh, what a play from Raunak Sadhwani. He's really putting on a show right now.
Ironically enough, to secure his spot in the round of 64, Sadhwani still had to get through another teenage sensation from India, Pranav V. Unfazed, Sadhwani sealed the deal.
Heroic defense from Sadhwani gives him the 2nd win in a row in this playoff, and he's off to the knockout stages.
In the main bracket, the 16-year-old star finds himself in a challenging, experienced group, including fellow countryman and legend Vishwanathan Anand. In another twist, Sadhwani's first-round opponent was the FIDE champion the same year Sadhwani was born. Sadhwani will need to tap into more magic from his fruitful summer to make travel plans to Toronto.
Playing against top grandmasters, it's like awesome, and hopefully I can keep going further in the knockouts as well.
Yeah, Robert, what more to say? Raunak is among a group of talented juniors in India who are just soft-spoken killers. Like 2,700 ELO in classical, and just able to translate that so effortlessly. The faster and faster the format goes. But this is a nerve-wracking event. Like we saw yesterday, I'm thinking of Jose Mourinho, but Jose Martinez yesterday, I've never seen the guy so stressed before yesterday. Like I thought he was just like super chill guy, playing his blitz, playing his rapid, but he was stressed. A lot of people are stressed. You see people breathing, eating their shirts. $1 million is on the line, not for the winner. It's 200,000, but overall, I think that brings that out in the players.
And Raunak Sadhwani is a really nice kid. Like I got to hang out with him at the Olympiad. We played some table tennis. We played some board games. And yeah, you're right. This is a huge moment in his career. He won a medal with the India 2 team at the Olympiad. Now he has a chance to beat a former world champion in a 4-game match. That is a big accomplishment if he's able to achieve it. And what's so exciting about this tournament, Levy, is we have the teenager versus the legend. So who's the favorite there? Where Veselin is obviously the higher rated player and historic player, but Raunak may become a historic player in his own right. So it's going to be really exciting in that 4-5 matchup.
Yeah, for example, Boris Gelfand, who is in this group, actually trains the Indian team. I don't know if he does that as a full-time job, if that was a part-time gig. And Topalov was coaching in the US. Like, they're at the stage of their career where it's time to bestow the knowledge upon the younger generation. Unfortunately, they also at times have to play them in brutal rapid knockouts. So you give them all the tools to win, and then they're going to use it against you because they're savages. And I think we're off. I think clocks are running, and Topalov begins with D4.
Oh, here we go. So we'll see what Raunak has in store for Veselin. And that when you play somebody like Veselin Topalov, you don't know which version of him you're going to get. We saw Krumnik be absolutely dominant yesterday. So moral degradation aside, I mean, Vladimir is here and he's here to stay. But for Topalov, he struggled in over-the-board events in recent years when he does come out of his, I don't want to call it retirement, but he has an extended vacation in terms of his chess career.
So right away, we don't see G5 from Raunak. He doesn't go for the aggressive kind of knight e4, G5 kind of stuff. It's a very solid opening thus far from the players, it seems.
Yeah, it's, as you were pointing out, G5 is an approach that is acceptable in many of these Rogozin. Also in the Nimzo, you see it played. The king would look weak, but white doesn't have enough firepower. But whoa, that is an offering here, Levy. Queen on D8 hanging, but so is the queen on C3.
Yep. Yes, sir. That's not a queen hang. Don't worry, we're not going to have a highlight just yet. But yeah, that's what choice does white have? I mean, can white just go back, like maybe queen b3 or something?
Yeah, I guess you can go queen b3, but then I'm even more tempted to play g5. And, well, Veselin chooses queen a3, not a square you see every day for that queen. Levy, what do you think? G5 happening? Or even knight g5 seems tempting.
Wow, knight g5. I would never. By the way, sick arrows. Can I just say? I mean, this might be the highlight of the tournament right here. We got 3 different colors on the board. All right, knight df6, of course. Yeah, g5 and h5 looked really interesting. But I guess it's game 1. You know what I mean? I guess it's a feeler game. If it's game 3 and it's, you're up 1.5 half, you're getting confident, then okay, maybe you're going to play, you're going to go for this g5 stuff. But yeah, I think Raunak is just going to go for this traditional structure. Speaking of traditional structure, is it c6? Is that what black is looking for?
We'll get a little Carlsbad type structure, but yeah, it is odd with the queen on a3 because normally you play b4, b5. That's a lot harder to orchestrate with your queen in the a-pawn's path. So c6 looks great to me. And Levy, I guess I kind of want to talk about that psychology you were touching upon, because players with the black pieces, if you're Raunak Sadhwani, you're happy to make a draw in game 1, but don't you think it often prevents people when you're in a position like this, when it's just a a position. It's neutral. It sometimes, I think, prevents them from playing the best move, because if G5 is, in fact, the best choice, then you should go for it and not worry about the result just yet.
Yeah, I agree, but that's also, I'm definitely biased by the fact that it's my playing style to think of G5, H5, and I'm generally quite bad at evaluating whether or not I'm getting myself into a good adventure or a bad adventure. And I feel like when the stakes are this high and it's still the first game and you still kind of, it's a feel out round. I think fighters do this as well. A lot of fighters will lose the first round just to kind of download data, and then they go on to win the next few rounds. And I don't know if Raunak Sadhwani is ever going to get into an octagon with gloves on and fight shirtless. But I think in this case, you just sort of put your pieces on squares and you see how the game goes. But I do agree with you. The problem is, like, if all things are equal, white will apply pressure on the queen side, and black is only going to get so many of these moves like rook e8 and knight f6, right? So you're going to run out of improving moves, and at some point you're going to have to do something.
That's true. And he plays one of those improving moves, as you were highlighting, rook e8, rook c1, natural choice. Although oftentimes this f1 rook comes to c1, because if the plan, and we see c6, is to play b4 and b5, it's probably good to have both rooks towards the queen side. So Topalov doing a very natural thing here with rook a to c1. But, we said black only has so many improving moves. What about white? Like, what is Topalov's plan, if not this b-pawn push?
Well, I really like the idea of trying to play b4, b5. Yeah, and I was going to also say, yeah, okay, well, there is g5. Okay, so finally it arrives. But see, now if you take the bishop, isn't there some f takes g3, like very counterintuitive moves to open up the rook? It seems intuitive, but what I'm saying is you're taught to take toward the center. But now that you weakened your knight on f6 and your bishop on f5 is unguarded, taking this is a lot harder. And I don't know if the move h5 here is all that good for black. Like, that's a very dangerous looking move for both sides.
Yeah, if you're playing for a win, if you're Raunak Sadhwani, like you were saying, if it's game 3, maybe you play h5 and say, I'm holding nothing back. But it just might be the best move. So you don't want to get caught up into how risky it is. That's why Raunak has spent some time here on assess. But I like what you were saying, Levy, that f takes g3. Coaches, you're the chess coach of the internet. You teach everybody, right, that h takes g3. We capture towards the center, keep our pawns in chains. But f takes g3 makes a lot of sense, opening up this rook. And if it could pan out, that'll be very dangerous for the king on g8. And Levy, I don't think either of us need to think very hard and long about how many instructive wins Topalov has had against an open kingside.
Yeah, one of the best kind of like downhill, rolling attacking players there ever was. And it's interesting to see him kind of dial it back and go for a Carlsbad. He's and then just kind of play like a queenless middle game here. Of course, yeah, and there is b4. I wonder why the computer absolutely hates that move.
That was surprising because it looks like the obvious plan, but b4 was detested by the engine. It went from slightly better for white to almost -1 for black. So what is it?
Is it h5? I mean, that's the only thing I can possibly think of.
That looks pretty strong when you don't have to worry about your king safety. h5, h4 might just trap a piece.
Right, because now the queens are off, so black doesn't really need to worry about counterattacking. We're not taking the bishop on g3. We are actually trying to trap the bishop. But h5, what? I mean, can white play like h4 and then still have this kind of f-file stuff going on?
Yeah, it's a good point, because 2 pieces are hanging in a row there. That could be costly for black.
See, this is where Ludwig chess would be amazing, because with black, you have 11 minutes to figure out why it's -1. Ludwig chess, of course, being the format where you see the eval bar. You don't see stockfish. And see, Raunak doesn't see it. I also didn't see it. Did you have any idea what the move was?
No. In fact, I'm going to go back, and I'm going to look, and I'm going to say, okay, well, apparently it's -1 if you play the move knight to e8. You saw that, right, Levy? I mean, obviously.
I guess it's to get the Carlsbad knight, right? Like to put the knight on d6 and then play f6, kicking out white's knight. Is that the point? Yeah, I mean, that's dank, as the kids say.
That is just ridiculous, right? Like, this is one of those moves where even if you show it to any of these top GMs afterwards, they're like, yeah, okay, I'm not mad at myself for missing a -1 move with knight e8. It doesn't look like a -1 move. And knight d7 is a good move. You see it's still equal. The position was slightly better for white. Then it says slightly better for black. So knight d7, just trading off white's most imposing piece. I don't think that you can fault Raunak for making this choice.
Yeah, excuse me. I also think this has a little bit to do with psychology. I could be wrong, but it's kind of one of these situations where, like we've been saying, it's the first game, and you're more thinking like, well, I'm just going to get this knight. I'm going to get rid of this knight on e5. So I'm going to get rid of it with maybe my worst piece, which is that knight on f6. But what he didn't realize is actually he can play knight e8, knight d6, and get rid of it with a pawn, and actually not trade it off, but rather like kick it out completely and take over the initiative. Now, yeah, I mean, Topalov's going to play a4. I don't think there's a whole lot here, but if Raunak kind of overthinks this position and then doesn't find the best defense because he thinks his position is unpleasant, Topalov's going to win. He's just going to move forward and convert a better endgame. Yeah,
well, you said endgame. That made my mind want to go elsewhere just because the Vishwanathan Anand is playing. So, Lev, if you don't mind, can we hop on over there, you think, and check it out?
Yeah, of course.
Oh, my favorite opening, of course, is on the board here. Pankratov playing the French, knowing that I'm commentating today. And Vishy, with the white pieces, establishes his queen on f4 towards the black king. So what's your initial take of this position? The eval only says plus 0.4, but I mean, obviously there's much more to it than engine evaluation.
The engine hates the French, so we have to. It's a little bit biased, right? It's like when you get selected for jury duty and you have to kind of disclose information about yourself. You can't be on the jury of a car accident trial if you were once involved in one, for example. Well, the French is kind of the jury duty. You have to disclose that the engine hates it and it will always give advantage. However, what my co-host will not tell you is that he once drew Vishwanathan Anand in a classical chess game by playing the French. Did he play this against you? Was it, if we can kind of look through the opening? What did he play?
I played differently than Ponkratov did, but yeah, this is the start of the game, but I did not play c5 at this moment. So just mainline winnower stuff here. And just for everybody watching, I'm sure, you've created so many videos, Levy, that you've gone over the French. But in general, right, this compromised pawn structure for white is offset by the fact that there's all of these dark square problems that black permanently has, and there's often pressure on the king side. So rook a2 is a very funny looking move, Levy. You don't often play this pretty much in, I guess, the black side of some Slavs. But other than that, you don't see a move like rook a2 or rook a7 in the opening.
Yeah, the French is a fascinating opening that kind of doesn't make any sense. Like, black gives up a bishop to, yes, slightly inconvenience white's pawn structure, and there's many ways that black can handle that middle game. It's an opening that I don't touch with either color because, well, frankly, I'm lazy and a bit and a bit of a degenerate, so I would never learn 20 moves of theory for either side here. I always try to simplify things when it comes to the French with either side. But black basically has this queen on a4 totally restricting white's play. White is like, I don't care about that. I'm going to build up on the king side. And as we see, Vishy's doing that. Now he's going to try to kick this knight out with a pawn push a little bit later. But the truth is, Robert, like in your experience, if you don't break through here on the queen side with black, aren't you just dead? Like, because white is just going to pressure, and improve. And where's black's play on the queen side? Where is it?
I don't see it. It's a great question. I've never been fond of the French. Yes, I did use it against Vishy, but that's because I thought it was the opening he could least expect coming from me. And, well, it did work out in that one game. But as we see in this position, this is what happens in the French. You have this beautiful connect four, but this is not that board game. And g4 is played. It's just free roll on the king side for white. Black lacks space. Go ahead. Whoa, you can get away with this? I just assume your knight gets trapped.
Yeah, so I guess Pankratov is gonna go back to f5. Is he gonna sack the what? Queen g5 is just trapping a knight, no?
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So the one thing you don't want to do is move your queen elsewhere on g5. What do you think?
Is there like queen b5 or queen b6 and queen b1 at the end?
Oh my goodness, this rook on a2 has got some problems. We'll show that here. We have the analysis put up. So queen g5. Levy's point is that if you go ahead and take this knight, then there's queen to b1 and the rook is trapped over here. That actually is a terrible rook.
I got to tell you, Robert, what the audience doesn't know is obviously we've made some technical adjustments to our commentary. And before, we would just follow the game in live chess. I got a really bad habit of just watching the game. And if I ever wanted to kind of see what the engine was thinking, I would turn it on. I got hands off. All right. I got no hands here. I'm trying to use my brain. And I think waking up at 6 in the morning and drinking a nice tea I think it set my brain right. I kind of get why Eric Rosen does it. Having said that, I still don't really believe in this position. Like, I think there's got to be something, right? It's just, it looks so passive. But this queen b6 move is really annoying, and it's hard to deal with.
I think it's one of these great illustrations of how you don't have to rush certain decisions. So after queen g5, queen b6, maybe just rook a1, where my rook is now safe, and you'll play queen b2 to go after all these pawns, as is typical of the French, and I play rook c1, and guess what? My bishop is defending this rook, your knight is still trapped, and you may end up getting even 3 pawns for the piece, but as we can see, based on the evaluation of the position, it's not fully justified. It's interesting, and there's some practical compensation, but white remains better because you're winning a piece, and you still will harass black on the king side.
Yeah, the Winawer, I think Ponkratov is actually like a renowned French expert, unless I'm completely making that up. By the way, did knight f5 happen?
Yeah, he just went back.
Oh, so he didn't even go for this queen b6. I mean, he could have, but I guess just the consolidation approach of rook a1, rook c1. So he was fully intending on the knight to die and just making some sort of blockade in the position, which, okay, that's fine. Wow. What?
What?
Vishy's like, nah, I'm going to win your knight and we're not going to trade rooks. Like, knight h7. This is what I mean. The French is an opening where, especially these mainline win hours, like, I don't think this was quite a cutting edge mainline. It was a little bit of a sideline, but this is the reason we don't see this opening in classical tournaments at Super GM level anymore. It's because I feel like black just kind of gets danced on. I mean, there's just, it's so tough. It's so tough. We will see the classical French with knight f6, but the Winawer with bishop b4, I think, is a rare sight. It's just a bit too much of a gamble when there's much more solid alternatives out there. People hate the Berlin, but in the Berlin, you don't get positions like this. You know,
I was listening to you, Levy, and I was taking everything in, but I'm still just so mesmerized by the move knight h7.
It's so disrespectful. I mean, he could have just taken his knight, and Vishy's like, Vishy has a sense of humor. He's just like, no, I'm not taking it.
But, you know, it does make a lot of sense because this rook on h1, it is defending the white king. Yep. It also is covering that b1 square in case of a queen b6. So the knight on f5 immobilized because the knight e7 is loose. So I actually love the decision. I never would have found that myself. I'm being completely transparent. But if we had traded rooks on h8 instead, you can already see the evaluation is going in black's favor. It says equal, but with rook h2 check, problems with this white king over here, I can completely understand the move as it's justified. I just wouldn't have seen it in advance.
Yes. Remember this whole monologue that I went on about waking up early and drinking and getting like caffeinated? Well, I'm not, can I confess something to you, Robert?
Yeah.
I thought the rook on h1 was protected. Like, I mean, this is why maybe I should be in the second shift. This entire time I was like, knight f5, I take the knight. It didn't even occur to me that like I would need to trade the rooks first and allow the control of the h file. I'm very sorry. All right. Like, so I'm with the audience on this one, Robert. You're the only adult in the room. I think you'll have to kind of take this game to its conclusion. But that knight is a goner. It can't move because the knight on e7 is hanging. That much I definitely will tell you.
Yeah, it's the problem with these superfluous knights is they're defending each other, but there's nothing else going on. So we'll come back to this game. We'll go back to the Topalov games to see if anything has happened here. We also have the MVL game. So maybe actually let's go to MVL versus Iturrizaga because Iturrizaga, he's spending quite a deal of time here. And I see a knight on f5. I see a pawn on g5 and h5. So I immediately love MVL's position.
Actually, yeah, at first glance, I thought MVL was playing with the black pieces. I thought it was some Sicilian. This looks like a Najdorf, potentially. Was it a Najdorf, or which Sicilian was it? And I just thought, oh, MVL, but then I very quickly realized that white is up 7 minutes, and I immediately knew that MVL was playing with the white pieces. So he's so fast. He is a nightmare opponent, and MVL plays like he has an appointment, okay? Like, at all times. Winning, losing.
It's such a good way of putting it, Levy. I've never heard that before, but that is 100% accurate.
Yeah, he wants to, he just wants to get out of there. Like it doesn't matter. He plays very instinctive chess, and I feel as though it's extremely annoying when you're winning and he's playing fast because you know you're winning, but you need to take a little bit of time. You hesitate, and he immediately kind of capitalizes. This position, though, he is not going to need any defense. One of his pawns is going to go forward. The question is which one? F6. right? At some point, because you don't want to get hit with knight f4. But
f6 is definitely the move that I was considering, because if you play h6, so I think this is difficult because all 3 pawn pushes look at minimum reasonable and actually look quite good. So h6 would be a normal way to go for an attack. But if you make the move h6, I was concerned that after g6, I wouldn't actually have a way in. And that's the big difference, is this rook on h1 is blockaded by its own pawn, whereas if you play f6 and black tries to avoid the opening of the king with g6, well, of course, now we're very happy with the rook gaining an open file, and the game's just over, as you see.
Actually,
these are shooting up.
Out of curiosity, after h6, g6, and then the f-pawn straight, is black just better? I'm very curious. Like FG, is black just better, or is it just equal? Okay, it's just equal. But I mean, prospect-wise, this looks horrible for white. Like,
I wouldn't, as you were saying, I wouldn't look at the engine and be like, this is equal. I would immediately prefer black. I'm totally with you, because endgames are all horrible for white with these extended pawn structure. So, yeah, this is not at all what you want. And MVL, he is a very aggressive player trying to make those appointments. And f6, well, he just booked one for a checkmating attack.
Yep. F6, knight f4. I wonder if there's bishop takes h7, but you can probably just go queen e4.
That's the thing. When it's not my game, I'm immediately going bishop takes h7 check, right? Maxime should do that. It's fun. If it doesn't work, still it's
Robert.
Yeah.
All right, bishop h7.
Yeah.
It's not going to happen, but bishop h7 takes. It's bad. But I really wanted g6.
Yeah.
King g8. It's not going to happen. h6. Knight e2, hg.
That's awesome. That is awesome. You don't get to see this.
It's losing basically every move and doesn't work at all. But if you got here, it would be sick.
Oh, yeah. You just, and you can take the pawn g6, but rook h8, you get a new queen on f8. No, it doesn't work for many different reasons, because while it looks very imposing, once black eliminates, instead of taking the queen, starts taking some of your pawns, you're no longer going to have a checkmating attack, and you're just running out of firepower. So that's actually a really funny variation. But knight f4 was the choice of Iturrizaga here. Bishop takes h7, tempting, but that's why Maxime is doing the right thing. It's instructive. Take your time. You're up so much time. And look at this, a calm move. He doesn't even play queen e4. That move looked really strong to my eyes, but he says, simple move, queen f3, because the threat of f takes g7 is very powerful. If you play g6, I'm very happy to open the h-file. And maybe with the queen on e4 levy, he was worried about getting hit with the d5 at some point, so he feels like he's saving himself a tempo.
Yeah, and I think, there's definitely, multiple options here for MVL to convert this. I wouldn't be shocked if we came back and he had secured this first game. We have another game. I think the only game that we haven't looked at just yet, which is the world champion, Nodirbek Abdusattorov, in the rapid format, also Olympic gold medalist. And he's got a game against Boris Gelfand. This one's super interesting. I thought that read 17 minutes for black, but that says 12. I was like, wow, Gelfand really busting out some prep. Robert, what opening is this?
By looking at the position, I couldn't fully tell you. Obviously, I started with some kind of d4, but let's go back in time and just quickly go through the moves here. We're not going to teach novelties in the theoretical session, but bishop b2. So this is becoming very popular, just a calm move to defend the knight in c3, so you don't have to ruin your pawn structure if it's captured. But Levy, these kind of positions, I think the way chess is taught, players who are around 1500 would say, this is immediately better for white. I have the bishop pair, but as you can see off to the side and with black's lead in development, black is doing okay for now, but the prospects can be very dangerous in terms of an advantage for white.
Yeah, for sure. This bishop d2 move has definitely become popular because people don't care anymore at the highest level about getting some sort of main line position that has been played before. They frankly don't even sometimes care about advantage. Like if the computer says the position is about balanced, you're going to get just an interesting game. And if you know the plan's better than your opponent, by the way, queen d5 just looks like a straight up winning fork. It's not, because black plays queen e7. I thought he took on c3 in this position. Wow, what? Knight c6 traps the queen. That is amazing. Incredible. So, but you see Nodirbek's time. He's barely used any time. So he knows which moves are best. And That is why he is able to play quickly. I'm sure he has studied some of the different alternatives that black can play, and it seems like Gelfand has played into something that he understands. Right now, he's offering an exchange of knights to open up his rook. So in the Topalov game, we had seen f takes g3. That would be a completely terrible move now because there is no rook, but hg would open up the white rook on the h-file.
What a position this is with attacking prospects galore. I'm worried about Gelfand's king, but the way Gelfand's playing, like he's playing quite quickly. It still feels like he's in a relative comfort zone. I hate the look of the position, but I trust the player playing it. So I'm going to give Gelfand the benefit of the doubt. And I think we should go to the Giri game against Ju Wenjun just because that's a fifth and final match going on in this early session here. So let's pull up this game and Anish with the white pieces against the women's world champion. And all right, just a pretty normal position relative to what we've just seen in the last few games.
Yeah, this just looks like a relatively straightforward queen's pawn opening. I think this was some sort of maybe like knight f3, d4, c4, e3 kind of a position. But yeah, let's just quickly go through the opening, I guess, see what how we got here. I think there was probably some bishop b5 at some point, or yeah. Wow. Yep. There it is.
You called
d4.
it.
And, okay, isolate a pawn position. Okay, bishop e2, yeah, because black had already castled. Okay, so it's this thing. I don't know if you've dabbled here, Robert, but this is a very hot area right now for chess. Just kind of getting a pawn structure game and not really worrying too much about having such a huge advantage or cutting-edge theory, but just playing against the hanging pawn structure, which is the C and D pawn structure that Ju Wenjun has.
With this knight just planted on c5. Yeah, I mean, these types of positions, I feel like when I have the advantage, I never win. And when I have the disadvantage, I get in huge trouble and probably lose. So I have to admit, like these positions, they look very flimsy to me from both sides. The pawn e3, very clear target. The knight can come to f5. You can try to go after this pawn. The pawn to c6, stuck in its tracks. And then with rooks coming to c5 later, I feel like you're in trouble. So I really don't have a great grasp on these positions, if I'm being honest, Levy. But I don't think that either player right now is too worried, but they're getting into a blitz game, right? Only 3 minutes per side now. So it feels like a blitz game, really, just based on where we are.
Wow, I hadn't even realized. I just assumed that a lot of this was sort of played quickly by Anish, at least. I thought maybe the first 10 or 15 moves were some sort of preparation. Wow. Okay. So yeah, they literally have 3 minutes to figure this game out. I mean, yes, they have 2 seconds bonus, but trust me, you don't feel that when you're down to about 10 seconds.
No. E4. All right, so it's a attempt to trade queens to potentially liquidate at some point. It says it's level. I think I have to switch games here. So the Vichy game is really heating up. I don't know how this position happened at all, but we're going to go over there right now because I see a pawn on a2 for Pavel Ponkratov. I see an open h-file, a queen on c2, and of course the engine says zeros.
Is it queen a8, king c7, queen h8, queen d1, or what? Or just queen a8, knight b8, and you don't even worry about it? What's the move after queen a8?
I guess knight to b8 looks pretty reasonable to me. This looks very scary for white. I'm looking at this position, I think black's is almost winning.
Yeah, and look at the time. This is what I mean. French experts, they know what works and what doesn't in these positions. It's very tough to stay sharp here.
What a move by Vichy.
Yeah.
It's still even. I'm looking at this position. I was like you, Levy. Queen a8. How do I stop the a-pawn? How do I deliver some attack? And the cool move, bishop f3, because if this rook were to leave the last rank, maybe there's also a queen f8 at some point. And the f5 pawn could be loose. I mean, this looks just... And bishop can block the rook, I guess, with bishop g2. But this is a mess.
But isn't there like queen e4? But... Vichy is playing to hold the position, right? He's playing basically not to get checkmated. That's what he's not. I mean, okay, you're always playing to win, but it does not feel right now like white is calling the shots.
White is definitely not calling the shots. You're 100% accurate. Like, it looks, I see the eval, so I know white isn't losing. But if you just showed me this position and I was watching a blitz game, I would think that white loses in 3 moves.
I mean, oh my God, king e1, the king returning to its rightful birthplace on the home square, but somehow he's not mated. I mean, queen d3? What is there, some perpetual?
I
guess there's always queen d6. So queen f8, king c7, queen d6, I guess.
But can I play knight d? Oh, there's queen c5 then.
Yeah, and then if the king runs, there's queen d6, and somehow and queen a3, and it's just always a draw.
Oh my gosh, this geometry is amazing. I'm going to show that. So queen d3 looks completely winning, but as you were just saying, queen check here, queen check again, and if you block with the knight, we're just repeating. King b8, we have queen d6, and as you pointed out, the queen can always go back to a3 and through d6 and things like that, and that's how we can make a draw. That is unbelievable.
That is crazy. Wow, that shows you the kind of hidden punch of some of these French positions is that they're really never truly over. I mean, it looked just beyond miserable, and Pankratov turned it around, and he's almost checkmating white. It's the perpetual check that's basically saving white. I mean, yes, the game was kind of theoretically always in the balance, but okay, and I guess he's going to play queen d3 and just make the draw from the position of strength.
Right, because actually if black didn't make the draw here with queen d3, bishop takes d5 would have completely turned this game around in white's favor. So
yeah. So, okay, maybe strength is... I guess Vichy was like kind of perfectly balancing between attack and defense, right? Bishop takes d5, and somehow his king would have been completely safe. I mean, it's crazy just Vichy covering up like this and still actively engaging his opponent in various aggressions, despite looking like his king is just on the verge of just total decimation. I think he will repeat moves. I don't think he cannot repeat moves, but can he? I mean, is there anything else? I don't think so.
Nah, he's just going to repeat. And I think Pankratov's looking like, can I run with my king somewhere? Like, can I go king b6? And after queen 6, play king a6 and try to win this game? But that's exactly how you lose games like this.
Yeah.
You take a walk over there and your king ends up in trouble because there's no immediate checkmate for black. So I think that Pankratov, with the black pieces in game one, he should just take the draw at this point, be happy about the start of the match, and we'll see what happens going forward. So should we... It's just 4 other games going on. I feel like
I feel like high stakes chess always has some crazy dramatic moments. Like Pankratov is gonna decline repetition somehow. Like Vichy is gonna try to play for a win. But yeah, I do think that he'll play king c8 and make the draw. So yeah, let's go see what's going on elsewhere. How's the Topalov game, by the way? Did anything actually happen there? Is Topalov trying to win an endgame? What's going on? That's a draw.
They drew as soon as I clicked on it. Look, you can see Topalov. Raunak ran away, and then Topalov's like, okay, game's done. It was a draw here. It doesn't look like it was too much excitement, at least compared to some of the other games going on. So let's keep going down the line here.
Yep.
We have the game between Maxime Vachier-Lagrave and Eduardo Iturrizaga. So let's go to that one where that bar is sky high, and, well, this looks as miserable as it gets for Iturrizaga.
Yeah, this was a perfect conversion by MVL from attack to winning endgame. And look at the clock, 5 to 12 seconds. Just 5 minutes to 12 seconds. And it is the 12 seconds that really feels like 12 seconds. And yeah, that's because it's just you only get 2 seconds of bonus time by the time your clock is added. And I think that seems it. Yep, white wins. There it is.
That's game. So Maxime Vachier-Lagrave takes a 1-0 lead. Let's go back. Whoa, Vichy's still going? What? How's that game not over? Oh, no, they just released. I was like, there's no way that game is still going. No, it looks like Ponkratov spent a bit of time because he's done it 3.5 minutes and then accepted the draw. So that leaves us, Levy, with just as if this is not enough, the world rapid champion, Nodirbek Abdusattorov, the gold medalist from the Olympiad, taking on the former challenger to the World Chess Championship title.
Nodirbek is in a room that, wow, poor guy's last name is so long it goes off the screen. I mean, listen, I think he's got the longest name in the entire event. If I may, Eduardo Iturrizaga gives him a run for his money, though. Nodirbek looks like he's in a room that's like could be like an album cover, like on a, like you see a CD or something back in the day in Best Buy. And it's just he's got this kind of cool. I like he's got like the perfect background there.
Levy, have you seen Severance?
No, I have not seen Severance.
It also looks like it could be one of the rooms in Severance.
Is it what's the genre of Severance?
It's I don't even know. It's like a serious show, but like it's with Adam Scott. It's funny as well, but it's like one of those kind of comedic shows with like real serious undertones.
Well, I was gonna say he could have like the Miskiv door. You know how Miskiv sort of had like has a whole career with the door behind him. Yeah, I feel like the whole Uzbek team could just walk through the door at some point, or maybe it'll be his mom and she'll get him some tea or something. I don't know. It seems like there's many things. There's like nothing in the room. Where is he? I guess there's a little furniture cabinet over there. Maybe it's just a chess office.
How do you think you become an Olympic champion? You are in an undisclosed location where nobody can find you to disturb you.
Listen, that dude is like a A-list celebrity right now in Uzbekistan. I mean, after they won, I don't know if anybody knows this, but they went on this whole press tour. They were with the president. It was wild stuff there. So I can imagine probably top 10 most popular guys in Uzbekistan right now, easily.
Also, he's a total sweetheart. I ran into the entire Uzbek team at the airport leaving the Olympiad, and I got to talk to Nordibek for a while, and he was just expressing his appreciation for online chess and all the opportunities it's given him, and he is just such a courteous guy. So he is a devil on the chessboard, but when it comes to real life, he's a really, really good kid.
Yeah, is absolute chess savage. Gelfand here trying to get some pieces off the board because White is building up a really nice attack. Amazing job here by Nordibek of breaking the rules of chess by not castling, but still just having all sorts of defenses near his king. And this dark squared battery really shows the kind of deep-rooted idea of the move 5 bishop d2 in the Nimzo. And you get the dark squared bishop, and then you hang on to it for dear life. And its value goes from 3 points to like 5 points, 5.5 points. And position is just really, really, really good here toward the final position with that we currently have on the board.
I was just going to say that you could take this bishop early on in the game, but now that's completely behind us. So it seems that White is going to have a long-term edge here. And, well, I guess, Levy, we're going to take a quick break just because to keep on schedule here, but we will be right back for more from the Chess.com Global Championship. Sorry to leave you hanging here, but you can watch these games yourselves as well, but we will be right back for more from the Global Championship.
Welcome back, everyone, to our coverage of the 2022 Chess.com Global Championship. We are going to be watching and kind of finishing the last remaining game of our first round here of the Group F, as well as kind of a bonus matchup in Group H between Eduardo Iturrizaga and Maxime Vachier-Lagrave. The position we have on the screen here, now we are not the ones playing. This is Nodirbek Abdusattorov with the white pieces, taking on Boris Gelfand with the black pieces. And Robert, it's only gotten worse for Boris. I think it's just gotten worse and worse here.
I mean, since the beginning of the game, since Bishop D2, as you were pointing out right before we went to break on move 5, it's been a problem on the dark squares for Boris Gelfand, and now he's down a pawn. His king is not safe. You see the evaluation at +7, and that just means there's a winning tactic. I could see a move like Bishop C4, Levy. That actually looks pretty nasty if it works out. Yeah, that looks like lights out. There might also be some Bishop B5, and then I don't know. I mean, just in general, yeah, Bishop C4, Rook D1 does not save black. I mean, it's a free rook, but probably Rook E6 somehow, and I mean, it's on the board, and the eval stayed the same. So there you go. I mean, Robert saw it instantly. Nodirbek took his time. He also probably saw it instantly, but it's good to have 4 minutes on the clock and just kind of take your time. I think this is it. I think we're going to see resignation. I think Boris's camera already resigned. That's the one tricky thing about getting players from all over the world on camera, is that sometimes their cameras, as we can see there, Boris Gelfand is a gentleman and a handsome man. He does not look like a black square. So yeah, I mean, it's gone from bad to worse. I mean, you know, it's a rough situation here, but hopefully he can bounce back. By the way, can I just say, what a damn game from Nodirbek. I mean, my God, from start to finish, this was just amazing chess. Yeah, well, we were working on some technical difficulties behind the scenes and just getting set for the next round of action. Levy and I were talking about this game and just marveling at the fact that Nodirbek, I mean, from start to finish of this game, he's been on fire, and he's going to hope for a knockout blow on the G7 square at some point. This knight on B7 is a donkey. Just a great game. I was just not expecting to hear that sentence. Just the knight is a donkey. I guess what a queen C8, rook D7, something. There's got to be something here. What is it? I guess that looks pretty good to me. But queen C8, rook E8. Oh! Okay. Well, filthy. Yeah, filthy. I mean, sometimes it's kind of what MVL did. Sometimes the easiest thing to do is to just, and that's it. And that's wow. It. Just to show everybody the conclusion, rook D7 check, picks up the knight, and I think that Boris trusted his young opponent to win 2 pawns ahead in the endgame. It is +7 after all. So a nice win for the reigning World Rapid Champion, and we do have the other 4 matches going on. So I just picked the game between Zhu Wenjun and Anish Giri, but I'm happy to go to any of them. Yes, so that first game was a draw. I guess we never really got an official result for that game, but I see the 50-50, so I see that it is in fact equal. This is a very interesting opening. What is this? This is some sort of like maybe I don't know what was I was gonna say Catalan, but it okay, it was like some DC4. Okay, it was some Queen's Gambit, Knight BD7. Robert, I feel like you would be a fan of the Knight BD7 QGD, like if you played it. I kind of am a fan of it, and I've seen Anish use this before, and it's an odd opening, but he plays this Knight B6 move. He tries to cling on to this pawn on C4, hoping to continue his material edge, but he's giving up time in terms of development, and Zhu Wenjun just takes it right away because of this fancy little trick here with Queen A4 check. So she gives up the bishop pair, but she's ahead in terms of development and central control. So Levy, I think this makes perfect sense from her perspective. Yeah, it's a weird system by Black, because you take an approach that's relatively offbeat and not played quite often, but Black just gets an ultra solid position and is kind of like come and get me. And well, that's what White is doing. White is playing Knight E4, Knight C5. White has ideas like King H1, Rook G1. Like I'm salivating at that attacking opportunity. I would be salivating more if it was a 3-minute game and my opponent was not, one of the
top 10 players of the world. I would much rather hope to play someone with a slightly lower title. But so game plans like that, Robert, they work better against an unprepared opponent or someone that doesn't know how to deal with various aggressions. I think Anish is more than well prepared. But I have to say, having said all that, I really like White's position.
Yeah, no, Jun is playing a great match thus far, and I think people, they see the rating differential in these opening rounds from the 1 seed in a group against the 8 seed. Min Lei almost took down Ding Liren yesterday, and Jun is fully capable of beating Anish in a 4-game match. In fact, she's played in Champions Chess Tour events, and she scored some major victories in individual games. So Anish, I actually messaged with him recently, and he said to me, just frankly, he's like, I haven't looked at who's in my bracket because I have such a strong matchup in the first round. So he's not taking it lightly. She's playing an excellent game. Knight on D3, queen on C4. She just has more active pieces here. The one thing that Anish is going for him, Levy, is that White does have these double pawns. Not that big of a deal, but if you're not looking out for it in the long term, that's when it becomes an issue.
Yeah, it feels like the only way to make progress here with White is going to be with either the move B2 to B4 at some moment, like prepared with a rook, or with the knight going to C5, right? Other than that, or I guess in terms of pawn play, B2 to B4, because if White ever pushes E3, E4, the D4 pawn is extremely weak, and you have to have that kind of taken care of. In terms of piece progress, knight C5. I was going to say rook c3, rook b3. Rook c3 would now hang a rook. A move ago, it would have been an idea, but now that's no longer possible. And Anish secures control of the b4 square, which he actually controls 4 times, which is pretty crazy. It's like the one thing that's making him not just have a much worse position is that White just hasn't been able to expand with b2, b4. But yeah, she's just going to keep making improving moves. And what's going to happen now, we talked about this in that game, Topalov, Raunak, Sadhwani, that was a long time ago. People might not remember. Also, the show was a bit early. Maybe they're just getting here. At some point in positions like this, you run out of improving moves, and either it's just a draw, you just shuffle back and forth, and it's sort of like unstoppable force, immovable object, or you try to win. And in trying to win, you expose yourself to potential counterplay, and you don't win, and you might lose. So we're going to see what happens. Like this position is completely in Jun's like court. Like she can do whatever she wants up to a point, and then she has to try to take a risk to win, or just make a draw, not do anything.
Yeah, the central question, no pun intended, is the move E3, E4. That kicks the knight out, but you are correct to mention this D4 pawn immediately becomes a target. So E4, generally speaking, is a move that carries significant risk because Black's follow-up plan, especially if the knights get traded, is just rook D7, rook D8, pile up all the pressure on this pawn D4, and then maybe have a pawn break in the future. So I think that Jun would be best off not pushing that pawn. I don't know what improving moves she has, Levy, so I wouldn't be that surprised if she ends up just shuffling her pieces and the position just remains balanced.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if it's worth it to try to play something like knight c5. Of course, if you get that trade and then the dark squared bishop for White makes it to d6, that looks great. Like if we can just put that on the board, it's obviously not going to happen exactly how we want it to happen, but you know, and we see, by the way, Stockfish isn't even thrilled with that plan because Black can, I don't even know what the idea there. I get queen b4, right? Queen b4 and a b4. Is that the plan? Or I'm not even sure, to be honest. What Stockfish being annoying.
I guess though, even with the bishop coming in d6, it doesn't carry a threat, and that's the really frustrating part about bishops is they can't move to the opposite color. So the knight can hop around a bunch later in the game, and I think that while it looks really annoying to see a bishop come to d6, it doesn't necessarily threaten anything, and maybe that's what the engine is latching onto.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. The knight, if there was a knight on d6, it would be, you know, just completely crushing. But it's not completely crushing. It's a bishop, and then everything around it is on a light square. So it looks nice, but is it usable? I'm not so sure. I think we have some more games. Let's take a look at some other games. We have MVL. We have obviously Vichy versus Ponkratov. MVL got things done with the wow. He is already just completely better here with the black pieces as well. What was this? Was this like what was this? God, the openings are goofy. They was it H4? Yeah, it was H4. I was gonna say it looked like some weird early H4, and I mean, you can't play h4 any earlier in a normal opening than move 3. I mean, I suppose you could have done it on move 2 or 1, but...
What's funny, Levy, is that MVL tends to be the most predictable high-level player. So the fact that it says King's Indian defense, I was like, and then the position kind of looks like the live position of Benoni. Like, that Iturrizaga had to do something a bit odd because Maxime always plays the Grunfeld. He always plays the Najdorf. He plays these Berlins all the time. So the fact that we have a Benoni structure means that Iturrizaga did something to force the issue.
Yes, I think one of the first people to introduce this on a super high level, wasn't it Grishuk played h4 against MVL in the candidates? And that was a crazy game. It was like a Benko Gambit style game. It's one of the most fascinating openings. Like I tried to learn it with white, and then I just couldn't understand it. I got excited when I moved my pawn to h4, and 10 moves later I was in a worse position. That was sort of the story. So yeah, it's way too sophisticated and imbalanced for me. And yeah, I mean, MVL, he dabbles in different openings, but he really dabbles in different openings because chess at 2770 level is really hard. And when he's the favorite, he's going to play what he knows best. And you kind of see it. Like, Iturrizaga is an amazing, amazing chess player, but even he doesn't want to go into the main lines. He doesn't want to, he doesn't want to have these theoretical scrambles and battles with MVL. He'd rather play h4 and try to catch him out somewhere where it's not so critical and mainline style, but it's move 15 and black is better. So.
Yeah, he also looks like he has a migraine. I'm looking at Iturrizaga. He's just like bent over at his hands on his temples. And that's what happens when you play against these 2770s. Is like, you think you're doing the normal thing here, but then there's a rook on c4. Why is that piece there? You want a knight? Right, this knight should be on c4, hitting the d6 pawn and controlling the b5 or b6 pawn pushes. But there's a rook there. The h4 pawn is hanging, so castling won't be so easy to make work. Your dark squares are just completely under control by this bishop on g7 and a knight coming to e5. And, of course, this pawn push to b6 or b5 can happen at any moment, opening the b file, coordinating rook and bishop. Levy, this looks really terrible for Iturrizaga.
I think if we keep this on the screen any longer, we could probably get in trouble for some sort of like harassment. So yeah, it's a tough one. I mean, MVL he's just a brutal guy to play against. And like I just said, if you try to take him out of theory, it can backfire so fast because he just gets it. Like he just and what's the time situation? Yeah, it's 3 minutes and it's only going to get worse. And Iturizaga's got a tough spot here. I mean, here's the truth. He could battle back here. He could try to consolidate that H-pawn. He could try not to get hit with B5 on the queen side. There's a legitimate chance he resigns this game in about 10 or 12 moves. Because if it gets really out of control and the time situation also gets out of control, you just don't defend against MVL when he gets going. So I think we've been told that some other games have started. So yeah, we can check in I guess wherever. I don't know, Robert. You want to check in on Vichy? We got world champions in every matchup, basically. Wait, what?
I just want to point out that they didn't do anything. They just shuffled moves. So we're surprised that it says draw because we haven't tuned in a bit. But all that happened was this.
Hey, look at that. It's a sign of a solid commentator. That's what I said would happen.
Yes, you did.
I was like, they're gonna get to a position and she can't make any progress, and neither can Anish. So draw, and there you go.
Draw agreed 1-1 in this matchup between Zhu Wenjun and
Robert.
Giri.
She did play King H1 by the way, her King's on H1, but she never actually.
it was a deke, it was a fake out.
Yeah. She was like, I made you flinch. And yeah.
Do you think she did the Heisman pose while she was doing it as well?
I don't know what that is.
Oh, the Heisman pose of football? When you deke somebody and you give them the.
Oh, is that? Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I know the Heisman Trophy. I know the pose that he has like kind of on the trophy. Is that what he was famous for?
Exactly what that is. Yeah.
Oh, so I did know. I should have trusted myself. I just thought for comedic timing I would pretend like not pretend. I just. Okay. Anyway, what's going on in the matchup of current world champion and I guess former challenger?
Levy, I have complete faith in you. So I'm going to, lift up your confidence here. You know what you're talking about. You got this, buddy. So, with the Heisman and with the chess. So.
Oh.
Yeah.
Did you just get instructions to hype up my confidence? That seemed
No. I just, I felt like, you said that about the comedic timing and all stuff, and I was like, yeah, I got faith in you. I'm just letting you know. I'm an honest guy. I'm trying to be transparent.
Oh, well, I listen, I appreciate it. It's 8 a.m. on the dot here in New York, so and then the sun's out now, so hopefully brain is going to start firing on some cylinders. Doesn't it feel good as a commentator to like predict an entire game basically? It's like you're like, I've been here before. I know what I'm talking about. Having said that, I got no clue what's going to happen in this one. But I think Nodjerbek is a professional. He's going to try to take the approach that Anish had. He's going to trust his white opening. And I think with black, he's going to look to stabilize. This one, probably also a d4, huh? Have we had like any e4s except that French? I guess we had a Sicilian in the MVL game, but
mostly d4, yeah. And I mean, you can trust Boris Gelfand to needle his way into this position. I mean, we can go back to say we got it. It was a queen's game, but accepted. But I'm just looking at the a5 pawn, the b5 square. I just feel like Gelfand has had so many instructive games and positions just like this. And based on Nordebek's time usage thus far, Levy, it's not concerning in the sense that he's plenty of time remaining, but he's a very quick player when he's confident. So I'm just getting the sense that Boris is going to put a lot of pressure on his young opponent.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, he has a book called, what is it? Is it Secrets of something, Positional Decision Making? I mean, it's literally a handbook of positions exactly like this, where he identifies open files, he identifies key squares, he like b5, c6, and potential pawn breaks, f4, f5. And wow, look at this. He's not even taking the pawn in the center back at all, despite it hanging with two different knights. He thinks the open file is more significant. So I feel like this is a very confident Boris right now. You know what I would play here with black? What I would like strongly consider, it probably loses on the spot, but something like knight c3. Because I feel like I'm going to get, can I make that work actually? Do I have like some d3, queen d3, knight c3, some like ridiculous tactic where I can like drive my knight into the e2 square?
That would be awesome.
But I don't think it works, unfortunately.
I don't think it works right here, but it's something to keep in mind, right? Because there are going to be positions where you really desperately want to trade queens because white's queen is aiming for the b5 square, and there's no rook c8 because the knight on a6 is loose. So at some point, I would love to trade queens, which actually is a justification for the move d3. Even if the tactical sequence doesn't work, I could see a future where a d3 makes sense, but queen b5 is very tempting in these positions. You could, of course, just take back on d4. This is as Boris of a position as it gets.
Absolutely. Having said that, I think one of the stereotypes of young chess players is, you got to take them down to kind of like middle and end game, right? You got to beat them that way, remove their tactics. I don't think that's the case anymore. And it's definitely not the case when you're the world champion in a format. And I think Nodjerbek is as good of a defender as he is an attacker. I don't even know what his specialty is. His style is good. Like, he's good at the game. You know what I mean? Like, maybe a more depth analysis will show he has certain weaknesses, but like, we're going to see how he handles this position. And if he handles it effortlessly, what can you say, right? Really, what can you say? I think I'll be completely transparent. In the bracket preview, I had said that the winner of the matchup between, if it happens, Nodjerbek and Vichy, because I think they're on pace if they win these matchups, that person will obviously win the group. But to do that, you have to show brilliance, not just in preparation, not just in tactical play and initiative, but defending unpleasant positions, being on the receiving end of positional squeezes, and so on. And we do see Gelfand there has his camera back, although unfortunately only 50% roughly of the facial surface area.
Well, Boris is one of those players. I mean, if you've seen Boris play over the last decades, he always is leaning forward, like one of those players who takes up too much of the board almost, where if you didn't respect him so much and if he weren't such a great person, you'd be like, hey, dude, can you like sit back in your chair and give me my space? But he's also encroaching on Nordebek's space on the board here. And look at that. Like, I was saying, and you made this point, that d3 could be a useful type of move just to distract white's pieces, maybe get some trades going. But Nordebek says, I'm not going to give you this pawn with the knight. You're going to have to spend some time with a move like queen takes d3. But is it a5?
Knight a5? Yeah, I was going to say, I think everything that I just described came back to bite. So he is looking for a tactical solution in an unpleasant position, and I'm not so sure it's going to work here. He had to respect his opponent's threats a little bit more. He kind of tried to take that approach of, oh, you're not going to take my pawn? Well, I'm going to make you take my pawn. But Boris will just ignore it. It's completely blockaded, and he will just take on a5, get the knight to c6. It's a very Boris-style move, knight a5, knight c6. I mean, it's surgical. It's very precise, I think. I think that's the right approach here.
Gosh, playing people like Boris, I would love to because I respect him. He's such a great player, but I hate it. You know, it's just like you're just waiting for that moment where his position continues to improve. And Nordibek, you talked about his style. His coach from the Uzbek team, Ivan Sokolov, said he's like Carlsen in terms of his style, where he's very multifaceted. He can get that squeeze going, but I mean, nobody likes being on the receiving side of a position where you're the one being pressured and you just don't have an active plan for yourself. So I think Nordibek has a lot to figure out here. I think we can maybe go to a different game while he figures this out, because Boris may very well snag this pawn a5, plant the knight on c6, and I think that this task is going to be anything but fun for the young Uzbek superstar.
Yeah, when you started describing what it would be like to play Boris, I literally sneezed. I think I'm allergic to being on the receiving end of this chess. And yeah, I mean, just very, very unpleasant stuff here for Nordibek, who is, he's well, Boris hasn't found the move knight a5. Let's put it this way, but if he does, it's going to be a serious defensive task. Okay, let's check in on Vichy.
Before we check in on Vichy, Levy, we just have to make an announcement that Raunak Sadhwani has defeated former world champion Veselin Topalov in their second game. So let's pull it up quickly before we go to the game of Vichy. And wait, is that queen trapped?
Yeah, wait, what? We didn't even see that game. What? Was that game like 20 moves?
It was just over 30, but it looks terrible for Black. Like, literally everything that could go wrong in a position has gone wrong for Topalov.
Yeah, he lost the battle on all three sides of the board. How did that happen so quick? Let's just recap this game. Raunak didn't even wait. Raunak is playing like he has an appointment now. Okay, it was just
a typical Italian, nothing special going on.
Well, Robert, in my defense, they probably played half the game in about a minute, right? So up until this point. But then what happened?
This has all been played many times before. So you see Topalov's not even spent a minute. And then a pawn push. How did this get so bad? This is also normal. Like, I'm looking at this position, and I actually hovered over the game earlier while we were looking at another, and I saw this position. I was like, yeah, it looks fine. Not a big deal. Yeah. And how did it get that? That's how. You make one active move, and you regret it.
Wow. Yeah, and that's it. It's just paralyzed.
Oh, gosh. Oh, my gosh. Just that the pawn started storming here because, oh, goodness.
Yeah, that's gonna be tragic.
Oh my gosh, like no moves for Black, just completely frozen. And after the rook hits b7, he went rook e7 to save the pawn, which is an important one, but then his queen got trapped. That's one move decided this game.
Yep, literally the move c5. He was like, I'm gonna solve my problems, and Raunak was like, yes, and create about 10 more. So what a game. But you know what's weird? This looked effortless from Raunak. I mean, really, it just looked like he played a bunch of theoretical moves, pinned a pawn to a bishop, and won the game. Like, it's just crazy. Like, chess is brutal.
I feel like Topalov had just a simple option. Many moves that were not c5 just seemed to be completely balanced here. Symmetrical pawn structure, no weaknesses for either side, but then he just pinned himself. And that's how sad chess can be when you lose a game, is like, I made such a normal-looking move, and then this position collapsed.
Yeah, wow. The c5 is just, that was it. No questions asked. The game was over.
Okay, well, Raunak Sadhwani, doesn't matter how it's done, he's thrilled to go to a plus score against Topalov. So, okay, you mentioned the game between Vichy. Let's go right there, because this position is not looking good for the former world champion whose king is on h6.
Oh my goodness. What is going on? Can we get how did this get this bad?
I'm just going to pick a random move. I have no idea how this game went. Looks like a relatively normal position. Not great for Black or anything, but not. We took with the pawn on f. Oh, there are back rank problems, Levy. So d5 would have been hanging if he took with the rook.
Yeah, wow. So he has to play some sort of g takes f6.
Oh gosh, and then it's just a positional nightmare everywhere.
Yeah, and Pankratov is just gonna apply the squeeze here. Yep, Queen F4, nice, just slow improvement, not allowing Vichy any counterplay on the queen side.
You gotta love moves like King H2, right? Just like a calm little move, bringing the king forward off the back. Oh,
yeah, Bishop Rook C. Oh God.
Oh
yeah.
no! Gosh.
It's not good. It's not good. Queen G4. Wow. Oh my goodness. Pankratov is just lights out this game. Yeah, Vichy sacrificing a rook to try to get some sort of perpetual but I don't think there's anything.
Yeah, what's the problem? There is none with king to H3, and Vichy is now down a rook, and he's dead lost on the clock, on the board. And well, look at him. He always kind of looks calm, Levy, but you know that he's probably quite upset about what has just happened here.
Yeah, I would have gone to. I'm not trying to say my move is in any way better than Vishwanathan Anand's, but I liked Queen D1 with some maybe vague hope of getting Bishop F5 check. But I get it. I mean, he's trying to make sure that he keeps an eye on the D4 pawn, and Vichy's got to. He's got to go up a level. He's got to find that kind of like killer instinct that he's known to have, and just he's down 1.5. He absolutely cannot bleed away any more points. So if Pankratov beats Vichy, I think we're gonna have no remaining perfect brackets. I mean, Pankratov is an excellent player, but just it's Vichy.
Yeah.
I don't know what else, Pankratov is an excellent player. His only issue in this matchup is he has an opponent like Vichy. That's it. Pankratov would be favored against many, many people. So
doesn't seem like an issue in this game. And Levy, it's what we were highlighting at the start of the show, that this is how strong the field is. Ponkratov, who many people haven't even heard of, but he's been in the Pro Chess League for many years. He plays in all of these online events, Title Tuesday, Rapid Chess Championships, you name it, he's there. And he is taking down Vichy Anand in this game. So he can win this match. And look at him on screen here. He doesn't look like a guy who's fazed by anything.
He doesn't. He just looks like he's chilling. He's just playing a chess game. He doesn't. He might just be excited to play Vichy. That's. I'm not necessarily cheering one way or the other, but it is tough to see legends go down. And a guy like Vichy, very easily top 5, top 10 player of all time. For some people, he'd be number 1. So it's. I mean, his influence is amazing, and I think he's looking for the resign button.
Yeah, he never uses that button, so he doesn't know where it is. But
literally, he runs out of time because he doesn't know where the resign button is because he never has to use it. Good Lord, what a flex.
Well, Vichy is going to have to bounce back. He did have an advantage with the white pieces in that French in game 1. And Maxime Vachilegrov, he is still playing against Iturrizaga. But, Levy, it's been bad for the player who now plays for Spain. Iturrizaga has switched federations, but it looks just miserable in this ending. Black has a passed C4 pawn, and white has these double pawns, and E4 is a permanent weakness. This is...
Where did he used to play before Spain? I thought he was always Spain.
No, Venezuela.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh my God! For as long as I've known Iturrizaga, I thought he represented Spain. I had no idea. Wow, I did not know that. Well, MVL represents France, so I don't think that's going to change ever, unless the US offers him a good deal. No, I'm not going to make that joke. Rook E2. Why does that move? Oh, he just blundered knight F2.
Fork City.
Yeah. Yep. And he saw it instantly. You could tell. But okay, again, 20 seconds.
Doesn't it look like they're about to fight each other?
They're both like, yeah, it's crazy because Gelfand sits so close and these dudes are just so far apart. Like, yo, I hate this. Like, I mean, does MVL look like he's enjoying himself?
No. I mean, he seriously looks like he's about to get in a fight. And he's the nicest guy.
I think it's because his name is not on the screen. I think it's because we can't. I think it's really tough for us to handle names that are longer than like 15 letters. I don't know. Poor guy's like, you know what? He doesn't look thrilled. He doesn't look like if he wins this matchup, he locks up like another $5,000. You know what I mean? It does not look pleased at all.
Yeah, he said, "Put some respect on my name." And he's doing the shirt biting. So
yeah, Ralph Mamedov was doing that yesterday. It's a good strat. Eric Rosen likes to bite his hoodie as well, and he's quite strong. So, and there it is. Yeah, I mean, and Iturrizaga has a similar problem that Pankratov is having in his match. Not the score, but just like he's in a spot where he's just playing a really damn good opponent. Pankratov though is up. He's up 1.5. Iturrizaga is a great player. But when MVL is like on fire like this, he's so tough to play against. You know what I mean? Like there are styles that they perform a certain way at the top, Robert, and then if you put those guys against people 100, 200 points lower, they steamroll. I think MVL is one of those guys. Like some styles might not translate as much because they're a bit more solid positional. I feel like MVL steamrolls anybody outside of like top 50, top 60 in the world.
Yeah, honestly, I had a tough time with my bracket because MVL, if he does go on to win this match, he's up 2-0. He plays Sam Sevian, and Sam Sevian is an absolute beast. He's been, in particular, a beast in the last year on all these online events. He's often been number 1 at the end of a Rapid Chess Championship week. He did really well at Champions Chess Tour event. So I wasn't quite sure how they would match up. I do have MVL moving past Sevian, but then if chalk holds and MVL plays against Levon Aronian, I felt like Levon should be the favorite there because of what you were saying, that I really do believe that MVL's predictability is a problem for him. It was in the candidates when he led in the first half and then struggled in the second half when Fabiano beat him, thanks to some great preparation. So I'm a little concerned for him if that future matchup happens, but MVL, absolute monster himself, obviously needs no real discussion points or introduction because he's been a top player for so long.
Yeah, MVL against someone like Sevian obviously will respect the preparation. I feel like he will maybe between moves 10 and 15 or 12 and 15 show up with just kind of like a maybe third line of Stockfish or third line of some sort of preparation and take him that way and see how he does, because all other things being equal, you gotta go with MVL. But the major way to beat MVL, it seems, is to detonate 25 to 30 moves on the man, right? Like, and Fabiano is more than capable of doing that against anybody, not just MVL, and we've seen it. And when that happens, it's insane. Remember that Fabiano game against Mityarov recently in Sinkfield Cup? That was unreal. That was just what was it? Was it Sinkfield Cup or was it Rapid and Blitz? I think it was in their classical game. It was this Rogozin that was like 30 moves of theory plus a queen sacrifice. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, that was absolutely crazy. And well, this one is anything but, because it looks like Nordebek, he's thinking after bishop takes b4 check. And black will go up a piece temporarily if knight takes b4, rook takes d2. You have to take this pawn. But the problem is that this knight just gets trapped over here. I mean, you can go knight b1, but that's not really going anywhere after that. So it looks like black is just going to take 2 pawns. White takes the knight, and we have an endgame with rook and 4 versus rook and 4.
Yep, and the major problem here is Boris's time. So I think what happened was he had a couple of critical decisions to make in this game, and he took a little bit too much time and ultimately made the wrong decision. What did he do incorrectly? He played knight a5, surely, right? In that critical moment where we were sort of discussing, oh, he did it this way.
Yeah.
And that was wrong because what? It allowed bishop f8 after knight c6.
Ah, yeah. Well, it just allowed
bishop c5. Oh.
Right, the bishop just was able to escape, and now this knight on c6 is loose.
So knight a5 instead of queen b6 was the way to go to keep the tension.
And
or was it not the way to go?
No, knight a5 is definitely the best move, and it keeps a slight. This is +1, plus it's hovering, it's thinking, getting more depth, but it was much better for white, and I'm sure Boris knew that. He thought that this his choice in the game was probably equivalently good, but as we see, all it did was force this liquidation where black's pass pawn with fewer pieces remaining has been a problem. Okay, Nordebek takes an a5 rather than going for that pure rook endgame. Can't really fault him when he's got a pass pawn on d3.
Right. Do we have some other games, or like is Juan Judan and Giri in big battle?
No, they're just this game going.
Okay.
I think they're waiting. The next batch of games will start when this one is over with as well. So I guess the players get a nice break. That's what happens when you finish on the other side. Yeah,
Raunak Sadhwani is just chilling for like 40 minutes. He's which is really well deserved after that win. That's a huge win for him. I I thought he might have been a slight favorite in that match, right? You got to kind of go with like youth tactics, like less time on the clock, online format. I mean, it's a very close one, but and like you said in the preview, like Topalov has struggled in some recent events, but the Pankratov Vichy 1.5 situation is pretty crazy. So huge credit to Pavel.
Yeah, Pavel playing like a beast right now. Raunak, yeah, I think he was the favorite. I'm guessing. Actually, we can get confirmation about the prediction splits. I'll ask the team to set us up with that based on the brackets that were filled out. But I would imagine that Raunak was the favorite, just because he's a much more familiar name at the moment, not in terms of the history books, but in terms of the guy who's playing in every single tournament you can name. So we'll get a word from the team on that.
Yeah, I think this game will be over relatively quickly. I think Nodirbek has to probably just be a little bit precise with how he handles White's outside pawn. By the way, that D pawn just survived. Like, no questions asked. It just never got captured. He's still trying to capture it, Boris. And actually, I got to tell you, 20 seconds on the clock. I don't think there's any risk at all of White losing this, but there's a chance he flags.
Yeah, he's moving really slowly. We know his camera has not always been in, so maybe he's even having internet issues. Yeah, he's 1 bar. He has 1 bar of connection. Boris Gelfand, he does get his internet back, but he's having problems.
Oh, this is going to be so tragic. I wonder if Nodirbek just offers the draws and seeing that, but listen. Oh my God, he's down to 3 seconds. He's going to flag. He's got to make a move.
Oh, and he blunders. Oh gosh, why is that such a blunder?
King D5 maybe.
Oh, then knight G6, then you get tempo and your king gets in here.
But yeah, it could also just be knight G6 and then king D5 or something. But maybe knight G6, E5, but then knight F5. I don't know.
Yeah, it's not so clear. I wonder if Nodirbek's doing what you... No, he's going to flag him. I was about to say... We got that with 0.3 seconds left. Boris Gelfand, the bullet machine. Nobody knew that this guy could play bullet like this.
This is really tough. And the craziest thing is he's sitting so far back. But yeah, Nodirbek going up 2-0 in a way that unfortunately kind of demonstrates the generational gap of players, right? I mean, this is not something that would have ever happened when Boris was Nodirbek's age. And it came out of nowhere. I mean, he literally lost the game in the last 3 or 4 moves. And I kind of, when I saw the 20-second situation, I got real nervous for Boris. And unfortunately, that's what happens.
And, I think that this position in the end, it was winning for Black. And people say, if Boris didn't have internet problems, he wouldn't have lost the game. Actually, I felt like the trajectory of the game was going in Nodirbek's favor. He was up a pawn in this knight endgame. It objectively should have been a draw. But if every objective best move was played, then we wouldn't even sit down at the board or play online. So I think that Nodirbek, he kind of defended accurately and deserved at least a half point. It does stink the way it happened, but I think that Boris down 2-0 now. I don't even know what to recommend for him because he's playing the World Rapid Champion.
Yeah, seriously. I mean, look, it's not the most exciting finish when you watch one of the best players of the last several decades, especially in classical over-the-board chess, go out in an otherwise relatively equal knight endgame because of time. But that's what you sign up for, right? At the end of the day, there's no way to get this amount of players in the same room, especially in modern era. It's online for a reason, and unfortunately, internet and the connection and the hand speed and all of that, that's part of the game. So Nodirbek goes up 2-0. He's one of 2 people up 2-0. Maxim Vachilegrov also enjoys a 2-0 lead against Eduardo Iturrizaga. We are going to take a break, and when we return, it's game 3 in, I think, every single one of these matchups. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everyone, to our coverage of the 2022 Chess.com Global Championship. A friendly reminder of what you are watching today. It is our second day of the knockouts. It's the round of 64, 32 qualified and 32 were invited. We are watching the entirety of Group F, and we have a bonus dessert matchup for you from Group H between Maxime Vachier-Lagrave and Eduardo Iturrizaga. Group F, Robert, thus far, we have Raunak Sadhwani with a big win over Veselin Topalov, former world champion. Nodirbek Abdusattorov having a 2-0 lead, one by way of a dominant game and one by way of slightly bad internet connection by Boris Gelfand. Anish Giri, Jun, absolutely nothing to choose between them, just a very solid first 2 games. And upset watch, Pavel Ponkratov is currently beating Vishwanathan Anand, and that is quite shocking. So I guess we have also some more bracket information to go through as we kind of give you a reminder of what even Group H is all about. Group H is a matchup here between, at the bottom of your screen, you see bottom left-hand side, you have MVL versus Iturrizaga, and the winner will move on to face Sam Sevian, who defeated Rasmus Svane. And I think Group H will conclude tomorrow or the day after. I am not responsible for Group H, so I'm actually not 100% sure. Robert, your impressions thus far of Group F?
Well, it's been an awesome set of matches for sure. We just are getting games going right now, but Jun, she's holding steady against Anish Giri. No matchup can be taken lightly. And I guess the most surprising thing to me of all, even more so than Pankratov leading Vishy Anand, is the fact that 64%, I believe, of people, that's right, said that Topalov would beat Raunak Sadhwani. I could have sworn it would have been Raunak as the favorite player in that matchup, but people were going with the legend.
Yeah, I completely agree. That's what I said. I mean, it felt a little bit strange to bet against Topalov, but such is life. I mean, there's nobody can really beat Father Time, and I feel like Raunak Sadhwani, give him a few more years, he's gonna be up there. I don't know what his classical rating is right now, but I think it's quite good. We see here Jun playing this very challenging variation, A5 and Bishop A7, and I think there was a game Nodirbek actually played with White, and that was against Hare Krishna in the Olympiad, where he played Bishop G5, got his bishop chased around, and then got pancaked. It was the only game that he lost, and it was not pretty. So is Bishop G5? Okay, so he does it this way. Now, Robert, you know way more about this than me. So can you tell me a little bit about like why White would play Bishop G5? Why White wouldn't like BD2 in this game?
Well, first of all, that was a great reference, and I was sitting right near that game because for 2 rounds in the Olympiad, I replaced John Donaldson, gave him a little break from the playing hall as the captain, and so I was sitting right next to that game, and I watched it unfold, and yeah, he did get absolutely flattened by Hare Krishna, who's a stellar player, obviously. And the bishop on G5 going in this manner, it does cause black to extend the pawns on his king side. But oftentimes with his knight coming to G6, it's not really that big of a deal and actually helps black gain space and control of key square. So that's why Anish, instead with knight D2 and D4, the bishop doesn't necessarily want to develop so soon because it can go to bishop G5 later, or maybe it sits on E3. But I think Anish is prioritizing central control versus bishop development.
Yeah, now with this center pawn on D4 that Anish has, what exactly is the plan? Like, is he going to take on E5 at some point? If he does take on E5, does he have to trade off the dark squared bishops? Right, like, is he going to have to play bishop E3 at some point?
I guess he says no. It put his knight on C4, and that's the thing. It's pawn A5, right? And normally this pawn's on A6. We don't have to worry about it. But there might be a time where that pawn is under attack and can, in fact, be captured. So I like the way Anish is handling this. He's done kind of nothing, right? He's just made pretty standard moves. But I'm starting to appreciate his position because I feel like, all right, he goes back to F1. So what do I know? You know, I'm like going knight C4, getting active. He's like, yeah, let's just go knight F1. We're chill.
This is a declaration of hostility by Jun. I mean, knight H5, that has bad intentions. The knight is going to F4. And I even think Anish had a game in a final matchup in one of these online recent events where he lost in a very similar way. I don't remember. He might have actually had a decent position, but someone put a knight on F4 against him. and they won, and they almost made it look easy. I almost feel it was Erigaisi or Prague, but I would not enjoy playing this with white. Like, just having this knight here, standing there, the bishop on a7, kind of sniping at my center and my f2 pawn. I don't like these positions with white. That doesn't mean anything. They're obviously completely okay to play, but okay, she just takes the bishop, so that's a little bit more relaxed. But is that the right approach by black? Because I don't know. I mean, knight was so good on f4.
I guess she was worried about bishop retreating to f1 and then white just continuing development. And that's the thing. The knight f4 looks imposing, but sometimes you can just play around it and say, looks can be deceiving, not actually doing all that much. But with the bishop pair, that's also not that impressive. What is your light square bishop doing? It has no good diagonal to work with. So I am starting to appreciate Anish's position more. With the knight f4, I agree with you, though. I was a little concerned about the prospects, but now I feel like it's just a normal looking position where Anish can start expanding over here on the center.
I am a little bit concerned about something like knight g5 maybe, and then trying to get that bishop to damage the structure. Queen b5 also looks really good because black, not right now, just as a kind of concept, because black doesn't have the pawn on the traditional a6 square, right? Now we talked about, I don't know what the best plan of action here is for black. I'm also trying to calculate the move d5. Okay, she does c6. That's fine. She wants to go b5. She also prevents the move queen b5. Yeah, tough spot here. I don't know what's next for Anish.
I'm into that move for sure. It takes away b5, makes d5 less appealing, because what white would like to avoid is some kind of position like this where eventually black gets f5, and you can already see the evaluation turning in black's favor. So you
looks like a really bad Sveshnikov.
Yeah, and Anish plays b3, a pretty mysterious move, but also the best move. So interesting choice.
I guess rook ad1? Otherwise, he would have lost the a pawn somehow?
I wasn't even looking at that, but that pawn was hanging. That's right. If the pawn didn't go to b3. But it just looks weird because you're inviting black to play a4 at some point.
Yeah, I guess that was just the approach. And then maybe he'll play rook ad1 c4 and just have a really kind of nice crown center. And if black ever takes in the center, that's really just an admission of a bad position. I mean, your d6 pawn's going to be horrible, and it looks like a Maragsi bind, but it's not. It ain't that. And in those positions, black gets counterplay. Here, with the exception of a5, a4, black doesn't really have a whole lot. But even a5, a4 is substantial. Anyway, I think this game, this feels like a classical chess game. You know, the position is a bit slow, a bit developing. Let's jump around and see what's going on, if we can.
Okay, let's go to the Topalov game against Raunak Sadhwani, because Raunak won a nice game in bishop e3. c5, bishop e3, and the game was pretty much over, as this one is following the path we predicted. But let's go on to this game, because I saw pawns on g5 and h5 levy, and you know how you do guess the elo? If you showed me this position and said guess the elo of the players in this game, I would not say former world champion Veselin Topalov and rising sensation Raunak Sadhwani.
Yeah, what? What is going on? I mean, you might as well play f5 as well. But okay, he decides to put a bishop there. What was the opening? Some sort of reversed... It's probably c4, e5. Yup. Robert, what is going on with all these Englishes? You know, chess is like art in the fact that you can look at it and completely not understand it, but pretend like you do just to have conversations with people. And on a serious note, I just feel like it evolves in different ways. Like, you know, there's like all these different art periods of history. The current meta is to play c4, e5 with white and do whatever the hell you want. a3, d3, e3. What's going on? All right, can you translate this grandmaster stuff to me? I don't get it.
I think that it's kind of this amorphous position where it doesn't give either side the clearest of plans. And you know, in response to this c4, e5 stuff, people are taking the report approach. Let's just throw my pawns up the king side over here, gain some space. But I'm often concerned that you've overextended. And if you look at the clocks, it's not like Raunak's in time trouble, but he is spending almost 5 minutes for the first 10 moves. And that is very unlike Sadhwani. He is a very speedy player. So I think Veselin is doing the proper thing. He's avoiding mainline theory because Raunak is very well prepared, and that allows him to comfort zone. Instead, he's taking us back to like 1990 and saying, hey, you were like now your parents might not even been alive at that point, and he's just trying to control the center. And I mean, this looks very solid for white, even if it's unspectacular.
Yeah, I think there's a few things at play. I think it's like, oh, he's going to play a sideline against me. I'm going to get aggressive. You know, I won the last game. I won game 2. It's a big confidence boost. Let me just get aggressive and beat. And Topalov's like, oh, yeah? Come and get some. Like, where? And he has like a hedgehog style structure, right? He has a bunch of pawns on the 3rd rank. And against this kind of like structure, you generally have to poke the right way, but if you don't, you're going to hit spikes. And to be honest with you, I don't know what Black's poking move is. Like, everything is covered here. And as you said, he played g5, h5. Now the burden of proof is on him. Right. Burden of proof is just like, okay, prove it. Because if you don't, why'd you push all those pawns in the first place? White's going to play moves like knight e4, which attack g5 and maybe try to get something to the c5 square. Like, knight ce4 right now looks like a very strong move to me, but who knows?
Looks like a great idea. He might play bishop b2 first, but the knight's coming to e4, and Black does want to put pieces on the d file, and the knight on e4 says, yeah, you can put a rook on d8 at some point, but you're not actually threatening anything. The pawn on d3 is well defended. So bishop e7 by Raunak. This is why it's a bit misleading to just have the engine on. It says minus 1.2. Black is doing just fine. I don't think Levy or myself were claiming that white is better, but this doesn't have the feel of a position that's necessarily better for Black. Castles queens? I guess he had to castle in that direction, if any. But I feel like at some point b4 might be a worthy pawn sacrifice.
Yeah. Wow. I'm in shock. I have to say that for all of the, I guess, concern over the way Raunak has played this, I don't really know what white can do here. If white plays knight c5, you just take and then take on d3. And if white castles long here...
Not really what you want, though, right? It feels just loosey-goosey.
It does, but... I don't know. I mean, what is white's next move, though?
What if you just play bishop e2? What's Black's plan? Is he going to move his bishop and play f5? That actually might be a very good plan for Black.
That's exactly, yes.
Okay. I'm starting to buy it more and more. I think all these pawns are just pushing up the board here, and white has no space.
But when you do play f5, knight c5 now no longer hangs the d3 pawn, right? Because the f pawn would be blocking the bishop on g6. But even then, Black would play f4 or something and cause you a bit of a headache. Speaking of headache, how is Iturrizaga doing? Last time we checked him, he looked like he was having a migraine playing MVL, and to be honest, who wouldn't? Okay, he is once again down 3 minutes on the clock, but this position is equal. But he needs to win.
Yeah, that's why he has a headache. That's why he's down on time. A draw is a loss for him, so this is not the type of position you want, because white controls the only open file, the fully open file over here. If you trade more pieces, good luck winning the resulting endgame. No, this is... you're playing Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, and you have nothing in particular to attack.
Yeah.
MVL knows what he's doing.
Playing with Black against MVL and being down 2-0 is a tough. I mean, playing Black at this level and being down 2-0 is tough. Okay, well, I think MVL has control here. He's going to play a bunch of really fast moves like that. Wait, what did he blunder? I don't... Oh, is there bishop e4?
Oh, and knight takes b3? Oh, my goodness.
MVL style just came back to bite him. I thought he was going to play f3 or something, but... Oh, no.
Oh, yes, Iturrizaga might just take that, take on b3. The queen comes back. We get... 2 pawns and a rook, if we're talking about from Iturizaga's perspective, 2 pawns and a rook for the 2 minor pieces, and you can see it's just much better for Black with this healthy passed pawn on b4.
Yeah, is it live, or are we just analyzing?
He went bishop c6.
Oh my god! See, that's the sign of a defeated player. I mean, I saw bishop e4 in a second, but I'm relaxed. I'm not stressed, right? Yeah, crazy. And I guess there was Robert, isn't it's a little bit upsetting to see, right? Just from the standpoint of like, you give Iturrizaga that position against any random person in Title Tuesday, he plays Bishop E4. That's what I feel like.
Yeah, I think that if this were game one, he also plays. Well, Maxime probably wouldn't blunder Bishop E4, but if that was available to him, I think Iturrizaga finds it. And you mentioned the Ludwig's tournament when you can see the eval. If the eval bar was present, obviously Iturrizaga would see it in a millisecond. So that's what people tell you. Like all you need is to see the evaluation, maybe even once in a game, and that changes exactly how you see the game and how you play it. So he may get his knight into D4, all this great stuff, but there's just not much to play for in terms of an advantage. If the knights get traded, you're never going to win. If your knight can get to D4, you have some chances. But, I mean, I think at this point, Levy, it's all about what could have been, not what's to come.
Yep, completely agreed. And I don't think MVL is going to allow a second chance like that. I'm not even sure he realized he allowed it in the first place. He had absolutely zero reaction, but maybe he did. Maybe he did. It's very common to play a move that was bad and then just immediately see it right after. But okay, let's keep going. Let's keep looking. How is Vichy doing? That's our upset alert.
Okay, I'll bring up Vichy's game against Ponkratov here. And as you see on screen, material is a pawn to the good for Vichy. He's got an extra pawn here. But Pankratov is doing this thing. He played the French in game one, and now he played the Philidor. So he is choosing openings that are not often played at the highest level. And if the evaluation is any indication of what's to come, I mean, he's doing it with success.
Yeah, the Philidor is not really a bad opening. Wow, he played this Philidor. He didn't even play the Philidor that's like knight BD7. I think that one's called like Hanham or something. Wow, he played this Philidor. Oh my goodness. Robert, I feel like we're in like the 19th century.
You think Philidor himself is playing in this game?
Yeah, seriously. Like the guy who invented the opening. I mean, yeah, this opening is just a calm 0.7 for white. And it's going to be up to Vichy to win it. Yeah, look at Pankratov just getting aggressive. Yeah. Well, he was even like much better for a move apparently.
Yeah, I guess complicated but better for black. And what is this game? Like black is just better.
Yeah, wow. I guess I don't know. I feel like if someone at like a live event, like Tata Steel, India Rapid and Blitz played the Philidor against Vichy, he would beat them in 25 moves. I think it's just something a little bit different about the online format and just relax, and it's different, man. It really is, and I feel like the top guys will all say that too. Online is interesting, but live class, like over the board, it's a totally different focus and type of playing experience.
You know what's interesting is that moment where C4 was played, and I wonder if Pankratov, he looked at this position, he thought, okay, my position is good, but I don't have a clear plan. And with the D4 pawn being targeted so many times, a knight coming to F5, these pawns marching up the board for white, I wonder if he actually had a sense of nervousness. Like, okay, if I don't do something now, if I don't trade queens, I might just get steamrolled on the king side, and I don't have the same prospects over on the queen side. So he trades queens in this manner, recognizing that Vichy wouldn't play rook to D2, which does defend the pawn, but walks into C3 and more activity for black. So instead he goes back to D1. And Levy, the position here where we have an endgame, it says like a slight pull perhaps for white, but are you believing that? Because frankly, I'm not.
I don't know. The only thing that white could seemingly, in my mind, take advantage of is the pawns on the queen side, like somehow poke at them with B3 or A3 or C3. I mean, thank God I don't have to make that decision. Probably not B3 because C3 gets super weak, but that was my first instinct. And then I figured I would have a little bit more flexibility that way. But yeah, I don't know, man. Like, Robert, if I gave you 1 second to play a move here with white, what is it?
I would probably go like a rook D6.
Yeah, right. Rook D6, right? Like but is that really the best move? Like I don't know. And then black can just play like, I don't know, knight D5, knight D7.
Yeah, and there are all these like problems where if we even get this, actually just he goes for it. So let's put this on the board.
Yep.
Your pawn's not going anywhere. And if things happen with F6, King F7, and so on, this pawn actually could just become a target, a liability rather than an asset. And the e-file is open for the black rook. So, yeah, I'm not believing in Vishy's position. And Pankratov, I mean, the guy is just playing like an absolute madman. I mean, every opening choice from him from the black side is like, would you really do this if you sat face-to-face with Vishy? The answer may be no, but he's doing it now, and it's working out for him.
Yeah, this is amazing stuff. I was wondering if White's position is improving if the pawns on the king side were on h2 and g2. And I feel like it is, right? Because the bishop is far more stable. And that allows a lot of flexibility. But because your whole side is completely exposed, like rook e3, rook e4, all these moves create problems for White. Vishy could get in trouble here, it even feels like.
I'd rather have black. Yeah, this d6 pawn is blockaded by the knight with this rook, as you were saying, barreling down the e-file, this king walking to e6. I don't see how White could be better here. It says zeros, but that's misleading. And bishop e1, okay, he's using your plan. Great move.
Yeah, that's a sick move. What a move. I wonder c3 here or a3.
Yeah, one of those moves for sure, because you can't just let black do whatever he wants. And right now, there's back rank problems. Black's pawns are defended, and with rook e4 on the agenda, you need to play a move like a3, and he goes for it.
Yeah, and if he can get his bishop around to c7, he's going to have a nice time in the endgame. But black is still going to go rook e4, and black is still going to put a king on e6, and there's literally no way through for White. So
Yeah.
White is going to have to rely on a king walk, I think, later in the game.
Well, actually, that king walk might happen quickly, because if you take on a3, this king goes to b2 and c3, and this pawn over here could be in huge trouble.
That might actually be what happens. Like that, if Pankratov doesn't quite realize how White will make progress, Vishy will literally play king b2, king c3, and just walk all the way to c6. And then maybe White is once again playing for a win. White's problem, though, is these pawns, these G and H pawns.
Yeah, but G and H pawn's a problem, but some of these pawns are probably going to fall. And then it becomes a race, and bishops usually are better than knights when they're pawns on both flanks, right? Because they're long-range pieces. So I don't know. I really didn't like Vishy's position at first, and then he makes this bishop e1 move. Retreating moves, the most difficult to find in chess. And now suddenly I'm like, okay, I could get behind this.
Yeah. We see rook e4 there. We're a little bit delayed from the chat. I don't know, maybe like 30 seconds or something, but it seems like Anish is winning, by the way. So maybe we can pop over there to see what's going on. It seems like Ju and Jun did blunder, but I don't.
Oof.
Oh, this doesn't even look like the same game.
There's a pawn that was on e5, and it's no longer there because after pawn takes, is it just queen takes e5? Is it that simple? Can just be that easy where checkmate at 1 is threatened and a knight is hanging?
Yeah, how did it get this bad? It seems like even before knight e5, it looked extremely promising. Here the position. Okay, so yeah, he used the central space advantage. He pushed through, and the trades occurred, and yeah, black was just totally restricted. Knight f5 was played.
Uh-oh. d6 is falling.
Yeah, so it's kind of what we were describing. You had mentioned that black has the bishop here, but it's not really clear what it's doing. And well, 6 moves later, we see the breakthrough, and yeah, Anish is going to go up 2-0, and there it is. Anish is not even putting the shirt in his mouth; he's holding it in his mouth with his. He's holding the shirt just in his mouth. He's not even like putting it there. Like Ralph and Iturrizaga, they need to. He's down.
Well, Anish needs to be a role model. He's got 2 young kids, and if he is biting on his shirt, what's he supposed to say to his 2 sons when they start doing it?
Right. Wait. So are you saying it's a good thing or a bad thing that he's?
No, I'm saying he's not biting because he's like, I'm just gonna gently place my face on my shirt rather than going for snack time.
Okay, that makes sense. Anish is like he's got a very red light on him. It seems like very intense concentration here as he looks to put the game away. Probably can win in a couple of ways: g4, g5, f6. But that's not. I feel like that's not Anish style. d6 gives me Anish vibes.
Yeah. Also, does he have a new hairstyle? Like, did he just get a haircut?
I was gonna say that, but I didn't want to objectify, But yeah. I mean, listen, Anish is the kind of guy that you can talk about like a haircut. He won't get offended. But yeah, I think he got a fresh cut.
Yeah, no, and I mean I know Anish quite well, and I don't recognize this look from him. So he's also really focused right now. You can just see him intently trying to find a plan, a winning plan. He knows he's winning, and Jun also looks like she knows he's winning, but you don't want to mess up these kind of advantages.
Out of curiosity, was G4, G5, F6 like totally winning for White there? Because he did go D6, but I'm curious what the engine I mean, I know if you want to give me your blessing. This looked also completely winning, but it doesn't feel like it's a niche style. So
the engine gave it its blessing, and I agree with you completely though. Like it's winning, and I'm sure Anish knows it's winning, but why does he need to push those pawns if he doesn't have to and expose his king? So what's the material count? It's a rook and how many pawns?
A lot. It lost count.
Just 3. It looks like 5.
It's more than enough. It does feel like 5. Feels like he has all his pawns.
Is he gonna have a rook b8 check if this bishop moves? Is that what's about to happen?
That's filthy.
It's just gonna be winning. You can get a back rank problem. So yeah, Anish has this. He's gonna go up 2-1. I'm just gonna hover over some of the other games to see if we need to move elsewhere. What is going Topalov's game? I think we have to go back there.
Sure.
Because Veselin against Raunak is not going to be. Veselin's time in this tournament is coming to a quick end here.
Oh my God! Yeah, this was good Lord. This was unbelievably one-sided. This is pretty crazy because that first game, I think a lot of this match really was psychological. We talked about it going in, right? In that first game, Raunak sort of held serve. He was solid. He was relaxed, and he equalized. That second game gave him a massive confidence boost. Look at the way he played this game. I mean, he just came in throwing haymakers. Like, he played this game like somebody had bet on him to win in the third round, and he was just going to win in the third round. He was just going to put it away. And G5, H5, and he never looked back.
And look at this finishing touch. G3 distracts the queen from the bishop on B2. So the queen will have to take on G3, and then the black queen can take this bishop, and you're just up a piece, and that's game over. So what a performance by Raunak Sadhwani. I mean, Veselin Topalov is one of the best players of all time. There's no question about it. But right here in today's game, today's match, it's been all Raunak ever since C5 was played by Topalov.
Yeah, seriously, it seemed to really have a big impact on this game as well. He kind of chose a very tentative and slow opening, and Raunak played in a way that I don't think I've ever seen people play like that before. Have you? G5, H5, Bishop F5, like against passive English setups? That was crazy, and he made it work.
Passive and Topalov don't belong in the same sentence, so he pays the price. You can see it on his face. And apparently, Vishy Anand is also doing work right now. He's moved on into an endgame where he's up a pawn. So I'm just going to bring that game up quickly, the one between Anand and Pankratov, because it looks like Topalov's time in this event is coming to an end. And Vishy, well, he is just up a pawn. How did he? He is a magician.
Yeah, I was going to make a comment like I wonder where his king is, and it's just
chilling.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay, so, oh gosh, I guess Ponkratov just never took the pawn because he was worried about the rook coming down the e-file.
Yeah. Wow, that went swimmingly.
That move. Yeah, it is, but h5 was the big mistake. I guess just king e6 first and maybe knight e5 after. After h5, Vishy takes, and then rook comes back to e1, and look at this move. That's what Pankratov missed.
Yeah, that's tough. That is a tough one. We talked about that d pawn being useless for a while. Well, oops, weren't we wrong? Yep. And obviously, if knight takes pawn, there was rook e7 check. I think there was.
Yeah, I'll just show that because I drew an arrow, but it's better to show on the board. Check, winning the piece, game over.
Yep.
So instead, he went rook d4. But now, Levy, it's an extra pawn, and we have the engine on. We have the eval bar over there. We don't have the moves that are supposed to be played. We'll just watch Vishy do this because you don't become a 5-time world chess champion and a former world rapid champion to boot if you don't know how to win these kind of end games. And he's going to make it look easy, even though I think a lot of people at first glance like, it's only one pawn. Aren't all rook end games drawn?
No, they're not. Being up a pawn is good. Having multiple pawns together is good. And he has, C and B are kind of together if you get rid of the C pawn. Also, Black has no pawn mobility. That's a major problem. Or frankly, any type of mobility, because the c3 pawn is so weak. If the c pawn was on c7, how much closer to a draw is this?
Still has to be lost just because of how great this rook is on the 5th rank. Because I guess the way Black would try to draw that, which Levy's question is the pawn c7, if you get rid of these pawns on the king side, then Black's king can venture over towards the center. But in St. Louis, we saw Jan Nepomniachtchi take down Alireza Firouzja, and I think it was even material, but White had so much more activity. That was Nepo in that game, so he was able to win that one. And here Vichy would like to play king a2. His pawn is hanging, so first play rook c5, and if this rook comes to e3, then the White king just ventures out.
Yeah, this is a big win for Vichy. He gets it done. Well, he hasn't quite. He's on the path to getting it done right now. Good thing he has 4 bars of connection. We don't see it on the current screen, but that's all right. We see it. Vichy. Oh, my goodness. What? What is happening? What?
Oh, my goodness. Apparently, he made a mistake. We'll go back right here. The king c1 is the obvious move, but apparently king a2.
What?
That's the way to go. And if rook takes c2, then the king just comes to b4, and then you win this pawn, and your pawn runs.
Oh, no.
Oh
no.
And so Pankratov doing his best here, and the king now is very close to this b pawn, and this rook can come to d2. Oh, no, I was right.
Rook d2, and then Vichy's going to have to grab the g pawn and just sort of run. Right? How?
Rook pawns are the absolute worst. It's funny how we love rook pawns when they're used as a decoy and to distract the opponent's pieces, but they're so bad when it's just the only pawn remaining. So even if you get a rook g7 and a pawn all up to h7, the black rook will sit on the h file behind it, and you're not going to win this game.
Yeah, this is crazy. What a hold potentially here from Ponkratov. And by the way, Vichy's got 45 seconds.
Oh my God. That actually probably is part of it. It's part of the reason why Vichy made a mistake in this ending is he didn't have that much time. Probably got a little bit nervous. And a blunder right back.
Yeah, he blunders, but what is it? Is it b6 or h6? He's got 30 seconds. Time is ticking. Which one is it?
I wonder if actually I would play b6 because the problem is you play h6.
Rook
there might be king c5. So at b6 I can keep going to b7. So this pawn gets advanced first, and then the second pawn can run.
h6, king c5 is so brutal. So b6, rook b2, but isn't there like rook b1 and then c2 somehow?
But rook b2 doesn't threaten rook takes b6 because of rook g6 checks. So maybe there's king d1.
That's probably what he missed. Or I don't know, but he obviously missed something because when you take the pawn, you're basically allowing your opponent to push, and you would have probably expected b7. But the fact that rook b2 is not a threat is so sneaky.
And that's such a critical difference. If we can bring up an analysis board really quickly here, we can show exactly the difference. Because if the h-pawn had run instead here, then this rook comes to h2, threatening this pawn push, and you could take this pawn. There's no skewer. There's no check on the 6th rank after. So as we get to the live position here, Wait, what?
He missed it.
No! How? What? Oh, no, Vichy. Time trouble.
Wait, what is going on?
Oh,
it's just a draw. That's it.
And Vichy is really upset. You just saw on his face. He looked to the side. He's just like, what happened there? Let's go back to that moment there as Vichy will have to recover emotionally heading into the last game. But Vichy knew he was winning. That's the thing is we saw at this point, rook c1 check, king e2, and after c2, he goes king d2. And look at that. Somehow king d2 is not the move.
Is it b7 or rook c7?
What in the world? How is that not the move?
Is it rook c7 instead of king d2?
Oh my gosh! Wait, no, I'm so confused now. How is
but here it's a draw. King d2 is the draw. But is rook c7 winning? Is it rook c7? It's not rook c7, so that means it's got to be b7, right? But then rook e1 and then you run away? No, that's also a draw. What?
So, in process of elimination, the only other move is king d. But why is that winning?
Yeah, what?
What's the difference when you could still play rook h1?
b7 and c1 is not a check.
Oh my gosh, this is unreal. That's the critical difference. The king on d3, as you're saying, is not check when you promote. So if you promote and I promote, it's promoting with check. So black is going to get checkmated. Oh my. Okay. How can you fault anybody for that mistake?
Yeah, that is so crazy. I mean, you saw my top 2 candidate moves were also draws. It just goes to show you, like, I mean, king d3 is not human because you never want to allow like a check on the back rank. It's just not a human move to go up in that position.
Oh
wow.
My God. It looks the same because if rook h1, king here, it's the same exact position as in the game. That's actually what happened. So, yep. Oh my goodness. King d3. This is very instructive, but there's no player in the world that I would expect to notice that difference of 20 seconds on their clock, even if some people would find it. Okay, right. We're going to go to the Abdusattorov game. Both players tied with Gelfand, who is down 2 games to none. He can't afford to draw Levy. He's doing well with the black pieces.
Yeah, he's doing super well. This looks horrible. This looks like a disaster of a position to play with white here.
Oh gosh, but he gets out of it.
Oh yeah,
G4 was a great move by Nordibek.
That was, yeah. And that's it. I mean, Nordibek's up 2-0. Yeah, we got here just in time, but yeah, these young guys are just so tough to beat in scrambles.
And you could, at some point, think about taking, especially if these pawns are about to get traded. Oh, Queen G4, watch out for that at some point. So King goes back to H2. Very smart play by Nordibek.
Yeah, and this is it. I mean, yes, Gelfand has a beautiful battery, but unfortunately, there we go. That's a queen trade offer. Nordibek is... Gelfand is... I apologize. Yeah, the queen trade constantly being offered, and I guess, yeah, we're just going to get a repetition. Oh, no, maybe not.
But you can't leave the 7th rank, otherwise you get...
Right. All right. And
next pre-move. Pre-move Queen takes G7.
Queen G7. Nope.
Nordibek, take that pawn. Take on G7.
Wow.
He doesn't want to be material down when the draw is secured.
That's it. So once this game finishes, which it will after a bishop moves and then a pawn gets pushed, right now G6, there it is. Nordibek is through to the round of 32. Gelfand, wow, he's quite distraught. Yeah, he had some really, really good positions in the last 2 games and no wins to show for them. But listen, it was always going to be tough to bet against an Olympic gold medalist, one of the fastest rising 2,700 rated players in the world, and the champion of the world in rapid. I mean, really, what can you do?
And you earn results when you have bad positions. And G4 is such a great move. Look at this. You have a problem with your queen here. Knight G5 looks like a knockout. So after G4, you can still play Knight G5, but it comes at the cost of a queen trade. So when you win this rook on E1, you get to a position with opposite colored bishops, and you will win the second pawn. But white can just give it in this way with split pawns here. Opposite colored bishop positions almost always drawn, even when you're down 2 pawns like this. So that's what Nordibek had cooked up. And Gelfand, I mean, you got to always praise the legend. Unfortunately, his tournament has come to its conclusion.
Yeah, there's even some positions where G and H together are a draw because opposite colored bishop endgames are just so disgusting that sometimes being up 2 pawns even connected is a draw. It's that unfortunate. So we have a few individuals already making it to the round of 32. Nordibek Abdusattorov, he picks up a win in 3. It's the shortest way to win a match of best of 4. Maxime Vachier-Lagrave had a smooth day at the office, with the exception of 1 move in game 3, it seems like. And Raunak Sadhwani already has knocked out Veselin Topalov. I feel like today's a very fast day. I don't know how fast some of these matchups ended yesterday, but 3 out of our 5 matchups are done in 3 games.
It's interesting because you would never expect the match to be done so quickly because everyone is such a strong player in this field. But that's what happens. I mean, the opening round, we get the youth versus the veteran. The young players, they won today. Nordibek and Raunak upset the players who have competed for world championships. So credit to them. They worked very hard on their game. And then Maxime Vachier-Lagrave, he was the heavy favorite in his matchup. But 2 matches remain. Levy and Jun will have a chance to bounce back with the white pieces. And Pavel Ponkratov, he gets the white pieces and he has a 1-point lead. So Vichy, he's needed to come up with a win on demand.
Yep. We will see those 2 matches potentially come to a conclusion in the 4th rapid game or we will see epic comebacks and then a bidding for an Armageddon. We'll be back in about 5 minutes. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back, everyone, to the Chess.com Global Championship. It's our second day of broadcasts, and we are having the spotlight on the round of 64 knockout. Yesterday, we had a super exciting day of games, and today as well, we have all the matchups coming to you from Group F, which features 4 world champions, a world championship challenger, and we have a bonus matchup for you in Group H. Now, if you're just getting here, we'll run you up to speed. Maxime did win that matchup. Maxime Boucher-Lagrave, the Frenchman, defeated Eduardo Iturrizaga convincingly in 3 games. But 2 other matchups also were decided in 3 rounds. And that was Raunak Sadhwani, the youngster of India, defeating Veselin Topalov, former world champion, as well as Nodjibek Abdusattorov taking down Boris Gelfand. We've got 2 matchups remaining with the scores of 2-1. That 4th and final rapid game will determine whether we are done for this part of today's long broadcast or whether we have an Armageddon. Those matchups, one is perhaps the understandable one, Anish Giri with the 2-1 lead. He is the rating favorite of the group, it seems. But Robert, Pavel Ponkratov is up 2-1 versus Vishwanathan Anand, and he just saved a really tough endgame. We're going to show you the bracket here in a second, but that matchup looks super exciting, and we will get to it. And this is just the preview of what will happen should Vishy or Pavel advance. They will face Nodjibek. And the winner of the matchup between Ju and Anish Giri will face Raunak Sadhwani. Both of those super exciting. But Robert, last thing I was gonna say was, I think I would, not want to go up against Nodjibek. I'm just, okay, just avoid that pairing. I think that would be nice.
I have Nodjibek winning this group. I have him moving on no matter who he faces. I had Vishy winning his matchup. I think 91% of people had that same result. So there will not be a perfect bracket prediction if Pankratov can, in fact, win this matchup against Vishy. But to your point, Levy, Nodjibek is my favorite in this group. Not because I prefer one human being over another, but I think the way he's been playing in recent months, winning the Olympiad, being the world rapid champion, he seems borderline unstoppable. So, in his in Vishy's final game against Pankratov, we'll see if Vishy can be his challenger or if Pankratov will surprise the masses and move on.
Yeah, I think they have just begun their game. That is definitely major upset watch. I think Jun has to win with. Is she playing white in that game?
She is white.
Yeah. So she has a little bit of a more comfortable situation. Vishy doesn't. So Vishy has to win with black. He has to win on demand with the black pieces. Did he play an O'Kelly Sicilian?
He did play A6 on move 2. And what else can you play to win as black when you need that result and no other? I mean, you could play offbeat Sicilians, you could play a Pirtz, a modern, but I don't think that's Vishy's style. No.
I mean, those two are very comfortable for white. This is just going to be a very, very kind of ageless setup battle, a Maroxy, and Vishy's playing it like a hedgehog style with B6, A6, D6, E6. We'll see. I mean, it's a tough spot when you're Pankratov. You've played super well, but this is probably the most nerve-wracking game for you because you're right there. You can taste the round of 32. You can taste defeating Vishy, which is probably going to ruin everyone's bracket. Like, if there's someone out there that predicted Hansen would beat Liem and Pankratov would beat Vishy, I mean, more power to you. You should just get the 100K right now. So
there's definitely one person in chat
who's like, "Oh, is that legally binding? Do I win it now?"
Yeah, like Levy said, I'm gonna get $100,000. Where's my money? Yeah, no, that it would be very impressive though. And Vishy, I was actually about to say that thematically, sometimes you play G4 because you have this pawn F3, but that changed the evaluation, Levy. And now, if the move D5 happens, you have this eyesore at the end of the diagonal on F3. So that seems to be a mistake, practically speaking, more than anything. Why play G4 when all you need is a draw?
I don't know. That's completely insane. I was going to say, I mean, I thought he was just going to play Bishop E2, short castle, B3, Rook FD1, pre-move. Like, right. just finish it. But G4 is crazy to me. I remember when I was really young, someone told me that the way to beat the hedgehog was to attack it on the king side, and I played G4, H4, and then I lost in 20 moves. I had no idea what I was doing. This also strikes me as a little bit peculiar because it feels so... Are you seeing that move?
What? Is that a mouse slip?
No, he seems... What?
What?
Robert, do you and I not understand chess?
Can we just go back 2 moves here? I mean, black is much better. We see the eval, but we don't even need the eval.
What is he doing? What? Have you ever seen this before?
You mean you don't usually play g4 and then follow it up with king d1? That's not what your...
I mean, I understood, like, king d1 must have been to go king c2, king b1, and castle by hand, but Robert, respectfully, what the like, what is this?
Black is spoiled for choice here. You can play b5. There's a king on c2. Let's open up this position, and you want to play d5. Okay, so Vishy's moves are obvious. I can't comprehend this. I think he's doing it for the fans. Pankratov wants the fans to enjoy an Armageddon game.
Robert, he just sat there and shook his head. What's he shaking his head at? He's the one who played the moves. Like, he did it to himself. Vishy just developed this piece. It's not like Vishy started a crazy attack. Pankratov just out of nowhere went g4, king d1, king c2, king b1. What?
I don't understand. Now there's 2 pawns under attack.
Robert, this feels like Black Mirror. Like, why are neither of them reacting? What is he doing? He's losing all his pawns.
I'm not laughing at the players, but it's true. I could not have predicted a single move in this game from White's perspective. What is happening?
Is this the weirdest top GM game you've ever seen? I'm so confused.
Yeah, especially when you're up 2-1 against Vishy. Clearly, he's been playing really well, and maybe he got nervous. I don't understand what's happening here.
Oh my goodness. I am so confused.
Which pawn do you take?
Yeah, this is the only thing that could go wrong. Vishy just does not expect to get such a position from the first year. I mean, taking on g4 looks very good, but I guess rook g1. You just need to kind of make sure you don't get checkmated.
Yeah, that's true. I'm not really scared of getting checkmated because it's not like White spent how many turns? King d1, king c2, king b1. It's not like White has a lead in development either. I have no words.
Yeah, this is very shocking. Having said that, it is still a game, and like I just said, Vishy is thinking, and he's giving respect to the position because as completely ludicrous as this looks, he still needs to take a pawn and do it the right way and survive, okay? But yeah, I'm so perplexed because I feel like if Jan Nepomniachtchi was black, he would be sitting there like, you know, like, this is very, very confusing.
It's like the game that he had against Firouzja, where like Firouzja gave him all the material and he just took, and crushed the guy. So let's make the move. Knight takes g4. Let's see what happens. Yep, the eval bar says -2 points. Same eval. Knight takes c4. Okay, knight takes c4 is actually incorrect. So taking the pawn that opens up your king is the right decision. Yep. Taking the pawn that opens up your opponent's king potentially is the wrong one. And I guess that when you get a position like this, Levy, White has this impressive 3 pawns on the 4th rank. The c4 pawn may be a target later in the game. The d6 pawn may as well. So it makes perfect sense why taking on g4 is better, but it's also riskier in some ways.
Yeah. Taking on g4 definitely a little bit riskier. Opening up that g file looks a little bit scary, but I think if there's a guy that's going to kind of calculate that and decide that it's a risk worth taking, it's Vishy. Admittedly, he was in a very nice position last game, and he had a little bit of a tilting moment toward the end, so anything is possible, but such is chess, right? Like knight c4 does look logical for black. You could convince yourself it's the right way to go, and Vishy is taking a lot of time here. He will probably spend about 25 to 30% of his total time on this decision because it's a huge one. But if he convinces himself that knight g4 is the best move, then, looks like he just went for his mouse and knight g4 on the board. He said, you know what? Screw this. I want to play Armageddon.
Right, and when you're a 5-time world chess champion, you don't really need compliments from anybody else, but I think what he did there is instructive for everybody watching, including me. Like, I watched that moment. I looked at his face, his reactions. He was very calm, and as you were saying, Levy, he was playing the position. He understands that Pankratov has just gone like completely astray here. But he said, look, I'm not going to think about that. I'm just going to find the best move. He spent almost 3 minutes and found the best move, even if there is something to worry about on the G file. So I think Vichy, he's been a class act his entire career. And I don't just mean that in terms of him being a great person, also the way he plays the game. This is a good moment. And if he does, in fact, convert this advantage, Pankratov will be kicking himself for maybe years to come.
Yeah, it's going to be so wild. But yeah, Pavel is... I think he's also showing more emotion than he has in any of the other games. Like he's shaking his head. He's, his eyes are getting wider. And I honestly am just so confused because he kind of did it all himself. Like it was not asked for whatsoever. Maybe there was some other type of move order in the Maroxy where G4 is a plan or King D1 is a plan. Like I wouldn't doubt it. These guys don't just play complete nonsense, right? Like there might be a certain type of setup where King D1, King C2 is a thing. But Robert, I swear to you, I have never seen it in my life. So if you have, you got to tell me. But I've never seen this whole plan that he played ever.
I've seen king walks before, even in early stages of games, but it made no sense. G4 and King D1, like in conjunction with one another, it was just befuddling. I just can't really grasp what he was thinking. I don't think he understands what he was thinking. He's sitting there. Look at him, right? He's upset with himself because he's like, all I need to do is draw the game, and I chose the most aggressive possible path that is backfiring completely. So Vichy is in great shape. Maybe we can take this time to go to the other game between Anish Giri and Zhu Wenjun, because Zhu Wenjun needs to win this game with the white pieces, and she chose this opening that it seemed like in 2020, Levy, everybody was playing this opening, and then thankfully they all stopped.
Yes, this is the ultra passive line against the bishop f4 queen's gambit declined, where it looks like white should just be completely winning visually. Like it just, if you look at this position at really any level, even at my level, I look at this, I'm like, how does black survive this? Black is just in time. Black basically has one move at every juncture to constantly trade things and make a draw. And Anish knows that. He's seen this a million times. And I don't know if she's going to be able to reinvent the wheel here. I really don't. And I'm a little bit surprised she chose this approach. I mean, maybe the Catalan is not in her repertoire. I don't know Zhu Wenjun's repertoire that well, but you could try to go for a Catalan. The problem is that, Robert, at d4, c4, knight f3, knight c3, black has a lot of just super solid lines that you don't need to do anything in. And Anish chose one, and he's going to have to defend this position, but I think he should be all right.
I think the biggest problem that Zhu Wenjun was facing is that she's against Anish Giri, who is one of, if not the most prepared player on the planet, right? He is renowned for his opening theory. And so what do you choose when you just lost game 3 in a kind of a surprising fashion? Her position crumbled in no time. And then you have to win. And you're like, all right, Anish is one of the best players in the world. He's super well prepared. What do you choose? He plays the Catalan himself. So I'm not saying that I would have gone for this, but I guess I'm saying I don't know what I would have gone for. There's no real great option that sticks out.
Yeah, there absolutely isn't. It sometimes really feels like if black wants to make a draw. As Sam Shanklin said to me, he was like, if I want to make a draw in some opening, like I have that in my toolbox. And this is one opening where bishop f4 is kind of neutralized. But I think she did. She played bishop f4 in the other game as well, but he played knight bd7, so he didn't play a traditional QGD. But I definitely think that between the two games, we should definitely focus on the Vichy one, because this one's going to take some time. It's going to be a very, very slow developing process, but that game could be over in 10 moves, 15 moves.
Yeah, here we are. We see oh gosh.
I wasn't joking, man. I was not exaggerating, because Pankratov is not going to want to sit around and, he's just completely lost. He's completely gone off the rails.
It's amazing that f takes g6 was a move that went from like -3 to -6, because wait, can you take and then just run no, because it's gh7, so of course you can't take. So
fg, I guess.
And just the open f file is that amazing for you?
I think so. Okay, he does it this way. I'm actually shocked. Like fg was, oh my god.
This is what you call desperation. This is not some wizardry. This is not Mikhail Tal playing some brilliant sacrifice. This is just like, I'm dead lost, so let me play hope chess.
Yeah, wow. This has been such a weird game. Do you agree? I just feel like that first game was wizardry level of defense. The second game was a convincing win with white. Then it was like a clutch endgame escape. What the hell is this game? Like, I don't know what the storyline here is. G4, King D1, all sorts of crazy stuff. And he has 11 minutes on the clock. He's just blitzing all his moves. And I guess he's just ready to go to Armageddon.
I don't have words for what has happened in this game because Pavel Ponkratov is an exceptional chess player. The level he's played at in this game is surprisingly low. I mean, look at him, right? The guy is just upset, and Vishy's bored. Vishy's like, all right, I'm up a piece. I can win this in my sleep. And Pankratov's sitting there like, I mean, what in the world have I done?
Yeah, Vishy showed a little bit of emotion when he kind of like opened his mouth last game and sort of like probably audibly exhaled after not being able to win that endgame. Yeah, Vishy just kind of has this look always like, why am I here? Why did I agree to this? MVL looks mad, but good for MVL. He's done with his games today and probably went out and got like a nice croissant for lunch. Oh my goodness, Bishop D7. There's eval bar is coming up from the dead here, which is always getting me a bit scared.
I think we can understand why. Somehow this position is not just completely winning. Oh my goodness, B3. Does he want Queen D2 or something to defend?
He just wants Queen D2 and white can't really move. But oh my god, eval bar giving me a heart attack here.
Yeah, I can see the depth going up. Levy and I don't have the moves that should be played, but I do have the eval bar available, and as the depth goes up, it shows how strong that move was. And B3 is a move that I think 99% of people would not even consider because their king is under attack. Bishop takes G6 with a threat, so people often defend directly. They'd make a move like King H7 or something just to defend the pawn. But that's a brilliant move because Queen D2 can happen, and then even Queen H6, and you're defending your king side, bringing the queen back around.
B3 is awesome. It's an amazing move because actually, if not for B3, like if white's pawn had been on the B3 square there, B2 was on B3, you got some seriously nice looking sacrifices. Bishop G6, you got Queen E4. I mean, it's all losing, but we have to look for something. We can't just sit here and go, oh, okay, it's over. It's really not. There's still possibility to blunder. And I think we're very prone to kind of throwing out games that, especially when the eval bar is on, is anything but over. You give this position to a student to take over, they might lose this with black in 3 or 4 moves because it's actually not as easy as they thought to defend against white's attack.
Right, let's say you make it with a Queen C5, very logical move, trying to trade queens. Eval bar already goes winning for white. Right, that's a normal looking move, Queen to C5. But after Queen E4, Rook takes G6, you're probably just going to get checkmated. So
that's insane. Wow, yeah, nice catch.
And that's what happens, right? In these positions, like, it's my opponent sacked a piece out of desperation, it's nothing. And I actually am guilty of stating that myself. But then you have to find moves like B3 and Rook E1 played by giving up this pawn with check to go for the attack. Draw my arrows better. This bishop on E7, still bishop G6. So you give up this pawn with check, and I don't believe in it. Narrows the eval bar, but good try by Ponkratov.
Yeah, definitely a great try. Absolutely. I mean, Queen E4 is like a quiet move setting up Rook takes G6, and it just completely wins. So it's very important for Vishy to be punctual with his counterplay. What a move, by the way, Rook E1. My God, what a move. It's a scary move. Watch
Vishy play something like Bishop G5 because the Rook on E1 is loose or something like that.
Yeah, Bishop G5 looks awesome and threatens mate.
Yeah, this pawn A2 is threatened with mate, so then you have to spend some time taking on B3, but even if A takes B3 is played, this Rook on E1, that's the problematic piece. So the Bishop on G5 cuts off the circulation of white's attack. So I like that, Rook E8 to follow. There's probably many other moves that should do the trick, but Vishy spending his time wisely. And by the way, Levy, it appears that if Pankratov wins this match, there's still 5 perfect brackets remaining.
Ha! That's so wild. 5 out of 10,000. Well, listen, you got to blame the players for showing up and ruining everything, right? Hey, will we redraw if after the first few days or maybe after the first round of 64? Can we adjust that, or is that just from the beginning? Because I just feel like it's a little bit of a letdown. It's only 3 rounds and we don't have any more bracket competitions. That just feels a little sad.
Start a new one, I guess. Just start doing like those prop bets, like in all these other sports, right? Just like, who is going to win the first game with black in the round of 32.
Now listen, imagine on DraftKings or something, we had some sort of like chess, and you can draft like a Hikaru or you can draft Nepo. It costs more points. Can you imagine? That'd be sick.
It would be.
Wow, he did play Bishop G5. What a savage.
Yeah. Over under number of moves in a match. I mean, there's so many different prop bets that can be had in chess.
Yes. Only problem is
fixing.
Stuff like that is tricky, right? Because move count or whatever. I mean, theoretically, a guy could bet on himself to lose and then go and make that happen. But in individual sports, I suppose it's different in team sports. But anyway, A takes B3 played. We will keep our business ideas to ourselves for now. What is the plan here for Vishy? Like rook? I was gonna say like rook B8. Okay, just queen B2. Yeah.
The way he's playing this game is just fantastic. Okay, Pankratov made his life easier in some ways, but since that moment, it's just been very precise. Not perfect. No chess player is perfect, but it's -5. He's up a piece. He's coordinating his pieces. Rook's coming to E8. King is feeling safer and safer by the turn. Bishop F5 is already a big threat because this queen on D4 is loose and the bishop's pinned. Yeah, nicely done by Vishy.
Oh, that's true. And at the end of the day, black might have something like bishop h6, bishop g7. You have to be a little careful, but you can always just go back. Rook ae8 to trade some material. Yeah, this one, I'm not going to say anything because the last time that I spoke, literally on that same second, Vishy made a mistake. And I misspoke. I actually wasn't trying to say that he had won the game. I was saying he's on his way. So we'll see if Vishy can put it all together. How is Ju Wenjun doing in her quest to beat the brick wall that is the Queen's Gambit declined? Has she made progress?
Nope.
No, in fact, quite the opposite, actually.
This good knight on c4, questionable pawn on h4. Right? It's like the things I'm noticing: c file clogged up, b file open, pressure on the b4 pawn. Yeah, Levy, this is, you can hardly fault Ju Wenjun because beating Anish Giri is really difficult. But yeah, this is not going her way.
No, it's tough. I mean, to beat Anish, you gotta get him deep into theoretical waters and kind of throw like a little, you gotta throw a little sprinkle on something. When you play something, I think some of these like really forced draw lines with black, they just have way too much in their toolbox. And she also just kind of has a random pawn on h4 because I guess she was hoping that that would turn into something. But if white's b4 pawn trades for black's c6 pawn, it's time to kind of wrap it up. I think I think probably the game to watch is definitely the Vishy game. No disrespect whatsoever, but this one's tough.
Yeah, just clogged C file and open A file that black controls. There's nothing to threaten, right? The C6 pawn is usually what you go after, but you're not getting your piece around. So let's go back to the Vishy game with Ponkratov. We will keep an eye on this one, but the other game is definitely a bit more exciting. So
yeah, I do just want to say nobody looks happy. It's crazy. Like not a single one of the players looks happy at all. It's tough to watch. No, Anish should be the happiest of the four of them, but it's been a struggle, and you don't take any player for granted. And for Vishy right now, he's down to 3.5 minutes. So with the material being is it just one pawn? It's just one pawn. Never mind. I was like 2 pawns for a piece and a potential attack, but it is only 1 pawn for the piece. Yeah, it's only a pawn, and it doesn't even really, you don't even feel the pawns here. You look at the black pawns on f7 and g6 protecting the king, but other than that, ain't nothing going here. You get the queens off, Pankratov has no attack. Okay, but Vishy has 3 minutes, and that is making me concerned a little bit. Yeah, I'm worried about the internet gambit, but Vishy usually has stable connection. And then I'm just a little concerned because the king is open. Rook g2 can happen, sacrifices on g6. So Vishy trying to be perfect here, and sometimes perfect is the enemy of the good, where you're just spending way too much time trying to find the best computer line every time. Yeah, for sure. I was going to say, I feel like Vishy's at the point in life where he shouldn't be paying for internet. They should be paying him to represent the internet company. I mean, I think it's kind of ridiculous if you're Vishy and you're still paying for stuff like that. You know, you got to get the best of the best. Yeah, he's going to make a few more moves. He still has to be careful. Like, there's still various bishop takes g6 things lurking. But,
in fact, a move ago, bishop takes g6 looked pretty scary.
Yeah, I guess the plan was... What was the plan?
You can't take, right? Because then the queen just takes, and you get
queen h5.
Get checkmated over here.
So I guess rook e2. Oh, what, bishop f7? No. Bishop f7, king h8, I guess. Or can you take? Oh, you can take.
Yeah, my king's going to run away. He learned a lesson from Pankratov. You know, the king can...
Yeah, anything you can do, I can do better, right? Wow.
No.
Okay, I think Vishy has 1:45, though. I don't like this. Like, yeah, queen d4. Vishy's just very tentative, it feels like. There we go. And
can you...
take.
Wait, now can you take? Because after queen takes, there's bishop g7.
Yeah, I don't know what the idea there was. I mean, I think the idea was I'm done.
Well, he kind of tilted here because he actually had a chance. When Vishy's down to 1:40, and there's the potential of an attack, even if it's not going to work out, just immediately giving Vishy obvious moves is not the way to go.
I feel like Pavel and his current facial expression is basically a microcosm of what chess feels like. It's just pain. And Vishy's just sort of like reading a book or studying, rocks or something. Like he's got a magnifying glass and he's like studying leaves that he collected or something. He just always kind of has like a nice kind of calm demeanor. Pavel looks distraught, and it's crazy because he played so well for 3 games. And
you know what I keep forgetting, Levy, is that there's going to be another game for Pavel. Like, I'm looking at him as if he just lost the most important game of his life, and maybe that's true, but he gets another game after this.
Yep, and that's it.
Resignation. If queen takes f5, queen takes g1 with check, then this queen is picked up. So Viswanathan Anand, the 5-time world chess champion, wins with black. He needed to get this one, and they're going to Armageddon.
They are going to Armageddon, and that was one of the most peculiar games I've ever been a part of commentating on. I don't understand what happened. I don't understand what happened between games 3 and 4 that caused such a thing. I'm just confused, man.
Yeah, there really is no explanation. And I think Pavel will be the first person to say, like, what was I doing? I was playing a good match. I was up a point. I was holding with black. I won my game with white. And then to play g4, king d1, and all this stuff in a Sicilian, especially when you play the Moroxi bind. You just get the bind. You don't open the position up for your opponent.
Yeah, super strange. Super, super strange. A very odd match also for Vishy to be involved in. Vishy is now going to just go catch a breather. Now, there is a bidding process, right, for the Armageddon. We should remind the viewers. So we do have, obviously, one more game here. Juan has to win to force the Armageddon. It's not looking likely. It looks like Anish will win and advance here in Group F. But the other 2 players remaining will now start a bidding process. Now, Robert, is it like eBay where you have bid this, bid that, or do they just submit the amount of minutes they would be willing to start with once and the lower bid wins?
They do that. So the team is working hard behind the scenes, communicating with the players. There is no increment in Armageddon. That's easy to forget when you play 4 games with a 2-second increment. So they're talking to players who separately submit their bid. And yesterday, for example, in the first matchup that went to Armageddon, Rauf Mamedov bid 12 minutes. Nihal Sarin bid 11. So Nihal got 11 minutes with the black pieces and draw odds, whereas Rauf had white with 15 minutes, but he needed to win that game.
Understood. Can they bet seconds, like 30 seconds?
They certainly can.
Okay. Do they know that?
They should. I'm pretty sure it's communicated to them, but
okay.
I'm gonna ask because I wasn't.
Gotta go for the strategic 10:45. You know what I mean? Well, was it Hansen yesterday who, after winning with 3 seconds on the clock, was on stream and then said he didn't know there was increment? He didn't know there was no increment. I'm pretty sure that's what he said. Which is crazy.
That's completely on the players. It's
yeah.
Told them,
yeah.
Yeah, Hansen also has played in Armageddon before, I think, and against Fedoseev maybe, where he also didn't know there was increment. So it's like a recurring theme.
Yeah, Anish has won the B pawn, by the way. Absolutely best case scenario here. White makes draw. White is no longer eligible to win this game. Anish has Netherlands internet. It's probably the best in the world. I've seen it at 1 ping. He's going to be all right. I'm sure their fiber optic cables are really solid, and Anish will be moving on. And he is going to await... no, he already has an opponent. He will be taking on Raunak Sadhwani in Group F round of 32.
Right. So I mean, he's still concentrated because he knows that if he doesn't look all across the board, there's a rook g3, checkmate in 1. He's not going to get checkmated. There might just be f5 after rook g3 because the rook on c4 is loose, things of that nature. But he could put a simple g6. I don't think he needs to take any risk whatsoever. You can't mate with just this rook and queen over on the king side. It's not enough material.
Yeah, it's not enough material. And by the way, if Giri makes it through to Toronto, that would be legendary because he will most likely have to go through Raunak and Nodirbek. I mean, I'm assuming, Nodirbek gets through Vichy. That's what you predicted. But I decided to kind of be a devil's advocate, and I said that experience was going to prevail over youth in that matchup. But I'm really not 100% certain. I feel like if it was over the board, I think Vichy definitely has some sort of edge. But online, it really seems like the young guys are just extremely sharp.
They certainly are. And by the way, I did
F5, yeah. F5
I did.
here.
Yeah, 5 looks very good. The queen can then slide over to the king side to help out. I did ask the team, and they quickly gave me the answer for the bids yesterday. And 2 players bid 11 minutes and 59 seconds. Kirill Aleksenko and Le Quang Liem did so, and their opponents bid 12 minutes. So they bid 1 second under their opponent.
Wow.
5 head.
Genius. That's like the Price is Right, No, that's really, really smart.
Wait a second, but both Aleksenko and Le Quang Liem lost. So maybe their bids, while they got the color of their choice, it didn't work out for them.
But Nihal did win, right, with less time.
But he bid 11 minutes on the dot. He kept it nice round numbers.
Right. That was crazy, by the way. I mean, to win with black, not even to make the draw with black. Well, Armageddon draw is very tough result. I mean, it's generally is a winner and a loser. I think Armageddon, the level of play also plummets. I think that's been studied. Will we go to a break before the Armageddon, or are they just going to roll directly into it?
Yeah, we'll get a break before that because the players need to get set up and all that stuff. So, by the way, does this position look like minus 4.6 to you? It's amazing, these neural net engines that you're like, okay, black is better. In the old days, Capablanca would win this with his eyes closed and he'd demonstrate great technique. Now it's like minus 4.7.
I think that's because of the line c5. Yeah. Okay. Well, actually, that was not the no. And yeah, Queen h6. I was thinking Rook d4, h5, Rook h4, or something like. But there might even be mate, like Queen b1, Rook d1.
Oh my gosh.
Look at that! It's happening. Oh, there's also Queen b1, Rook h4 if you play h5. Yeah. So this is
So now the Queen and Rook team up, and the King's being mated. It really did not look like a position that was so overwhelmingly advantageous for Giri, and it makes perfect sense now that I've seen what's happened. So this looks pretty natural.
So I don't know. Are we allowed to disclose to the public what people have bet? What Pankratov and Vichy have wagered? I don't know if that's...
Actually, we only have Ponkratov. We don't have Vichy's bid yet. So
yeah, we don't have the Vichy bid.
But these bids are... Oh, that's it. I guess we don't have Vichy's bid. We don't want to say anything because it's all done just to one person who relays it to us. So it's very secret.
Yeah, we don't want to tell the broadcast the bet, and then one guy hasn't submitted. Yeah, that seems like it would be tampering.
And that would also require either Vichy to be watching the stream, which he's definitely not doing, or somebody to actually know Vichy.
Yeah.
And chat, they'll pretend like they know people. They're like, yeah, Vichy's my guy. I doubt anybody here. Maybe there are some people who happen to know Vichy personally. By the way, Anish only needs a draw, so he's probably not even going to win this game. He's just going to make a draw.
There's actually some pretty hilarious ways to lose. Like if white tries to chase the king out and it gets to f6 and it's mate for white, but yeah, Anish is not going to blunder that. Like for example, you could accidentally allow like queen e2, king g5, queen g2, and then but there's even queen b2 at the end. So I'm just looking for ways to lose, but I think that's it. Queen e1 should be 3-5. Yep, Anish Giri shaking his head because he knows he's going to get trolled for making a draw in a winning position, but he does advance to the round of 32.
You know, all jokes aside, he does seem very stressed, right? Like I think that he cares a ton about this event. There's a huge monetary prize at stake. First place is $200,000, and he knows that if he plays his best, he can make the top 8 and go to the live finals in Toronto and have a shot at a huge payday and just a global championship title. So I feel like he's feeling the weight of this event where he knows, and I told everybody, you know, he and I spoke, and he said that he didn't even look at his bracket. So he may now know that he's going to play Raunak next, but he did not know when we spoke. In fact, he got mad at me for even talking about the bracket when we were messaging. So
wow, I didn't know that Anish could get mad. I had absolutely no idea.
It was mad in like a very gentle way, you know,
okay.
A joking way.
I understand. Well, congratulations to Anish Giri. He is our 4th qualifier into the round of 32 today, and he has now secured an extra $5,000 for 17th to 32nd place. There it is was up on your screen. Now you got 2 big bozos here on camera mode on your screen. We're going to take a very short break, and we are going to return for our final chess game of this broadcast. Obviously, the CGC is extremely long. We have a lot of different matchups, a lot of commentary teams, and we will return. And when we do return, we will know who's playing white, who's playing black in the Armageddon matchup between Vishy Anand and Pavel Ponkratov to determine who is the final qualifiers to the round of 32 in Group F.
open to anyone, all around the world. The Chess.com Global Championship offers the dream of playing against the best. And hey, have we mentioned there's also $1 million at stake?
The total pot is $1 million.
No, that is not a typo. The prizes are unbelievably generous.
We began with thousands of players. Now only dozens remain.
There it is.
Oh my God!
Wow.
Eric Hansen!
This is crazy.
Eric Hansen moves on to the round of 32 in Armageddon fashion.
The CGC knockout phase has arrived. There are those who played their way in, and some are here thanks to their well-earned reputations. No matter who you are, things are about to get very, very real.
What did he just put her to do? What?
A trip to the CGC finals and a clean shot at the largest first place prize of the year. My friends, it's the CGC round of 64. Who will take the next step to Toronto?
Welcome back, everyone, to the Chess.com Global Championship. Today is the second day of action here in the knockouts round of 64, and we are finishing our morning coverage with an Armageddon. So this is a very interesting type of format. Some of you may have heard of this before. In Armageddon, the person who has less time plays black, but has draw odds. So if the game ends in a draw, they actually win the game. Now, generally, that's either 5 minutes to white, 4 minutes to black, or something along those lines. But we have a bidding system, Robert. And would you like to fill in the viewers on what we just got told during the break?
Yeah, I'm still typing to the team behind the scenes because Vishy Anand bid 7 minutes. So he will have the black pieces with 7 minutes. Pavel Pankratov will have 15 minutes with white, and Pavel needs to win. So I was confirming a few things, that Vishy knew that there was no increment, that he knew that the base time was 15 minutes. The team actually asked him those specific questions. 7 minutes black versus 15 white. Vishy said correct, repeated it vocally as well. So I'm shocked, but Vishy must have that much confidence in his ability to draw with black and his bullet skills.
Yeah, that's completely nuts. We were both shocked at this bet. Bet, I suppose, offer, bid. The lowest bid thus far has been 11 minutes, right? And we've only had a few. I mean, the CGC knockouts have just begun. Vishy just made the lowest bet 7. He is going to have less than half of the time. That's ludicrous. And it's not like he gets Armageddon 40 moves, 60 moves. That is one of the formats of Armageddon that has happened before. After 60 moves, you get an extra bonus second if the game goes that long. That's crazy. That is a savage wager.
And Pankratov bid 14 and a half minutes. So he wanted the white pieces. He only was going to give up 30 seconds on his clock. And so Vishy could have bid 14 minutes and 29 seconds and he still would have had black and draw odds. But you, of course, don't know what your opponent's bid is. 7 minutes is... What? 7 minutes? That feels like a typo. He just said the wrong number. But no, Vishy's that confident.
Yeah, and we were sort of concerned players would think that maybe it's a 10-minute Armageddon, and therefore they would maybe bet 9 minutes or 7 minutes or something. But no, they are well aware it is 15 minutes. Well aware. Yes. It is a full-on rapid game, and this is basically like if Vishy was playing in the World Rapid Championship and literally showed up 7 minutes late, 8 minutes late. So we're about to get going. We're about to have the game in a minute or two, or right now, actually.
I'm still in disbelief. 7 minutes, the bid for Vishy. Pavel, he must be really, really happy to get this time advantage. But what's he going to do, right? We just saw him play with the white pieces, and he went berserk, right? There's no other way of framing it. The guy played one of the worst games of his life, perhaps.
Yeah, chess is a world where we really don't say things like so harshly about players in our commentary. Like in basketball, they're like, yeah, he had a horrible game. That was just not good. But he's about to start a game with 8 more minutes than his opponent. All right, Vishy's going E4, E5, old school. He's like, I can equalize with black, no problem. And we just saw Anish do that. We just saw Anish literally do exactly that versus Ju and Jun. Robert, how you feeling about like an Evans gambit? I know it's not on the board, but guys got 7 minutes, no increment. You might as well just play some crazy gambit lines. But no, we're seeing okay, that's a forcing line.
D5.
Yep. Now we're gonna get.
What's the problem, Levy?
Wait, Robert. What is Bishop E2? Isn't it Bishop B5? Some sort of sideline?
Yeah, Bishop E2 is like become also a trendy variation as well. Like,
okay,
it's in the engine age where you don't get any advantage with white. You try all these little things, but the problem with playing Vichy is that not only has he been around for like decades at the highest level, he's still at the highest level. Right?
Yep.
We saw him go back over the board. Everyone's like, "Oh, he's not playing anymore. He's retired." He goes on and beats Maxime and all these other top guys. So he's still working on his chess. Good luck finding an opening advantage. But I think the best thing, and maybe you'll disagree, but maybe you will back me up here, is that I think Pavel needs to keep pieces on the board. You can't trade. You can't make Vichy's decisions easy. And F6 is coming soon. So I feel like Vichy's next few moves, these little plans, are actually kind of obvious.
Yes, exactly. Knight A4 is not really a move that intends to keep many pieces on the board, but it's definitely looking for at least one exchange. But you're right. Here comes F6, and this is going to get very forcing very quickly. And I think the pressure is actually on Pavel because he has 8 more minutes than his opponent. 8! He has more than 50% of the start time. The problem is Vichy is coming from an elite class of players. Pavel is an absolutely incredible player as well. But like we saw in the Anish game, if they want to equalize with black, they will do it. It's like breathing for them. It's that simple. But the problem is Vichy has 6 minutes with no bonus time at all. So we might see a dirty flag. That is actually a legitimate option here for Pavel.
Yes. Yesterday, we saw a couple players attempting the dirty flag. Rauf Mamedov could not make it work against Neil Sar. And then Lequang Lian, he played it out down 2 queens and got checkmated against Eric Hansen. But the way Vichy has played thus far, he spent a minute for 12 moves, but he, I think, feels very comfortable with his position. I think he's done the early stage of the game quite well. But if he keeps spending like 8 to 12 seconds per move, that's when I'm going to get really worried on his behalf.
Yes, exactly. And as we can see here, okay, we're going to probably see DE5, but knight E5 is not unreasonable either with the intention of F3, F4. I actually really like Pavel's position, and I believe he's even spent less time than Vichy, despite having more of it to begin with.
Great choice, though, by Vichy to retreat the knight. He did not want to allow this pawn to E5 because if we split the board in half, white already has an extra pawn on the king side, and that's where the kings are. So if you give white a second pawn there and then allow the F pawn to roam, that would have been very problematic for the black king. So I really love knight to D6. The knight can come to F5 or maybe even C4 at some point. So Vichy, obviously world class, but a great decision there.
Yeah, to me, the move F2 to F4 looks awesome, but of course it comes with the drawback of giving up some light squares, but who knows, maybe then King H1 and G4 F5 by white is an idea.
I can get behind that for sure. Like, just start throwing pawns at the board, maybe just scare your opponent. And Pavel was playing more quickly than Vichy. Now he's slowed down because the last thing he can afford is a series of trades that make the position clearly equal. It's not about the evaluation bar. That's not what Pavel really cares about. It's the complexity of the position.
Yes, exactly. Let's not forget, $5,000 is on the line, as well as a potential next step qualification, right? So yes, in some cases, you can argue that flagging someone in a drawn rook endgame is not great. On the other hand, when it's such high stakes, it just becomes part of the game. Unfortunately, there's no other way to slice it. Like we have to find a way to break ties. Between players of this caliber, a draw is by far the most likely result in a game. Draws will not take us to any next stage. He does play F4, which is both concerning and rewarding for me because it's very concerning he played the move I suggested. But maybe he liked it. But now Vichy's going to put the bishop on E4, right? And it's going to be a little tough here to make progress.
I mean, just great control of the light squares for Vichy. And he made that last move in about 11, 12 seconds. So he's keeping a good pace. It's good enough for now. I'm still so nervous when you're down this much time. But I feel like there's much more clarity, right? We know what we're going for. White's going for some improvements on the king side. Black is now taking control of squares that white has just handed over to him. So I still feel like from a strategic standpoint, Vichy knows what's going on, but 5.5 minutes, not that much time.
No, not that much time, but it's no longer a 2x time advantage. I mean, it's right there on the verge, right? And Pavel has spent 4 minutes now, roughly, about 3.5 minutes, and Vichy has spent 1.5 minutes. So at this pace, they're both going to get down to maybe 2 minutes at the same time. Having said that, yeah, Pavel's, he's playing the games 1 through 3 Pavel right now. He is not playing like game 4 Pavel. There was game 6 Jordan, there's game 4 Pavel, and right now, I like how he's playing, but Vichy is about to potentially flip everything here with various, defensive moves. I like Queen E8 here, by the way. But I liked Queen E8 just kind of stabilizing.
I'm totally with you there. Queen E8 looked pretty good. Knight to E7 rather than knight to A5. Is this pawn going to be captured? No. He wants opposite colored bishops, Levy. Oh my goodness.
Oh, he's so clever. Down a pawn, but light scored bishop, dark scored bishop, C6, Queen D5, just make a draw.
That's such a good decision, because I was wondering, how am I going to avoid losing a pawn? He does not have the pawn. And the best players in the world, they do this all the time. They know when the material equality is not worth it. It's about the activity of the pieces. So giving up a pawn in C4, just to very quickly show you what that looks like. At the end of this, C6, Queen D5, as Levy pointed out, we have a great bishop on E4. Your extra pawn is not going anywhere, either in D4 and F4. So, yeah, this is looking like great chances to hold for Vichy. Plus, as we keep saying, Levy, it becomes clearer and clearer what Black needs to accomplish.
Yeah, Pavel does not want that to happen, but now the problem is he's going to have some serious difficulties, I think. Can't Black take on E3 and play the move C6 and just be absolutely chilling?
Yes.
That just looks so good. Or that. Okay, I'm kind of shocked he didn't take on E3. But Vichy's being stubborn. That's what he's doing. He just doesn't want to. Okay, bishop C1's a great move.
Mm-hmm. No, that actually was a missed opportunity, because we keep talking about this. You want clarity. You want the position to become more obvious what to do. Now with the bishop on the board, is B3 about to hit you at some point? A3 is hanging for the moment, but these are things now you have to consider that were not available had he just captured this bishop on E3.
We're getting dangerously close to very, very suspicious time territory. Like, I think when Vichy's clock hits 3 minutes, that's when things are going to... If there's this amount of pieces on the board, that's when things are going to get really dangerous for him. Because if Pavel does this the right way, which is not easy, your heart's probably pounding. Well, I don't know. Pavel just looks cool as a cucumber, but I'm sure there's a lot of stress there. Everybody kind of handles it differently. So, but Vichy's catching up. It's okay. That's... Wow. G4. What a move.
Love it. The move you have to play in a position like this when your opponent's at 4.5 minutes. So what is Vichy's response going to be? Now, Levy, the more I think about it, that knight takes E3, that's a huge missed opportunity from Vichy. I think that would have solved many of his problems. These knights are superfluous knights. They're fighting for the same squares, and this bishop on C1 maybe later in the game will become active, even after a move like F5.
Yeah, and now we might get Queen G3 here. And H4, H5. White's position is suddenly playing itself. This is not a good situation. Vichy has run out of moves that are kind of like easy moves to play to improve your position. It's about to get really... Yeah, he's going to have to rely on moves like this, mostly because of the time situation. He just has to play quick moves.
What a weird place for that bishop to sit. Is he going knight E4 now? The bishop can't be attacked. If that bishop can be attacked, it's just going to get trapped. But the queen has nowhere to go on the third rank to attack. And if you play queen F3, there could even be a knight D2 fork at some moment.
That's so ridiculous. Maybe there's takes, queen C3, knight F1. Oh, but then there's rook F4 at the end or something. It's super, super wild. If I'm going to put, a wager on who between the two of them might blunder a tactic and a time scramble, it's really tough to predict that Vichy will do that, right? But here it is. I just mentioned 3 minutes is on the clock for Vichy. Anything below 3 minutes, nothing good is going to happen. Okay? It's like, Robert, you and I are New Yorkers. Nothing good happens between 2 and 3 a.m. Okay? Except maybe some parties. But it's it's bad time to be out on the streets. But here's the thing. Pankratov has to also grasp the fact that the position is very sharp. Will he continue to push forward, and how?
Yeah, it's easy to blunder here. Easier to blunder for white than it is for black, I think, because you go for this mindset. I need to win the game. You make a move like f5, then you drop this pawn on e5. Can't do that. You do something on the queen side. Not much going on there. So I feel like these individual decisions are harder for white to make. And queen g2, totally reasonable move. I'm like ignoring the evaluation for the time being. As long as it doesn't really dip, it's kind of all the same.
Absolutely agreed with you. Yeah, wow. What a crazy bit if this pays off. It's actually kind of insane that he put the bishop on c2 and it just can't be removed.
He was bishop b3. He want knight d6, bishop c4 at some point, something like that. Or knight takes e5 and then bishop c4, trading off the light square bishops is huge for him. And then look at this knight on e4. Good luck getting that out of there.
That's one of the reasons I was worried about that f4 g4 plan. But Vishy somehow has made this work, and it's fascinating. It looks so intimidating to play black here, but white can't move anything. White relies too heavily on the blockade in the center. So maybe white has to play knight d3 before making more progress, but that just seems like a bad move. It just seems like a step in the wrong direction.
Yeah, I agree with you. Also, Vishy has spent about 3.5 minutes. He started with 7, just to remind everybody, and Pankratov has now spent 8 minutes. So in terms of time consumption, Pankratov's doing the right thing. He started with so much extra time. But when you start feeling like you're the one thinking a lot and your opponent's playing quickly, you start trusting your opponent or getting worried that they have a better grasp of the position, I wonder if Pankratov's in that mindset. He looks fully concentrated, Levy, but I get the sense that he kind of is trusting Vishy, and that can also add to your nerves.
Absolutely. And also realizing that you actually don't have forward progress. It's a very frustrating feeling. And to mention, not to mention that your time gap has gone from 8 to 3 minutes. So I did mention a while ago that they're going to get to around 2 minutes at the same time because of the pace of the game. Wow, that is a giant decision by Vishy. I am shocked. But bishop c4, you think?
Where else is that bishop going? I guess there's like a queen c5 check at some point, but this bishop comes out to e3. This is becoming a potential nightmare for Vishy. If this pawn can get up to f5, oh boy,
bishop e3.
Does he have
d4? Bishop f2 and queen f2.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Okay, I'm so tempted to play d4 and bishop d5, but my bishop is hanging on b3, so I can't get away with that.
That's very easy to blunder, by the way. Yeah, he goes bishop c4. Wow, bishop d1. My God, bishop d1 is an excellent move. Your opponent has 250 on the clock. You got to go bishop d1.
Is there bishop f1 here? Something like that, because the bishop on c1 is loose. I guess he just solves in a different way. He clears the diagonal.
Yeah, the insane thing is Vishy has to just play on instinct. And the thing is, Vishy is not like, a 16 or 17-year-old player. Like he's not playing moves in a millisecond like they do in Hyperbullet or these insane bullet matches. Like mouse speed actually becomes a factor as you get later and later in the Armageddon. Wow, f5, this is unbelievable. What an Armageddon game. 4 results are possible here.
Vishy really did not have to bid 7 minutes. That's going to be the talk no matter the result of this game.
Yep.
Most people don't bid below 11. So to bid 7 minutes just felt maybe unnecessary. However, he is handling himself quite nicely, but these pawns are moving. That's bad news for the Black King.
Yeah, there's footage of Vishy on YouTube thinking for like a minute on the 4th move of a blitz game and still winning. I don't know why he does this to himself, but like I said, 3 minutes was that cutoff point. Nothing is good is going to happen beyond that. And the worst part for him is the position is getting ultra sharp, and we are going to see crazy evaluation swings.
Yes, we will, because f6, very natural move to try to pry open the king side. That might be a mistake. He goes g5 here, and there the eval goes down a little bit. b4, Vishy's he's playing on instinct. He has to.
Yep.
He is not that afraid, but g6.
Oh my gosh. Oh, that is a crazy looking move.
All of the pawns.
Looks horrible to deal with.
What's Vishy going to do? Oh, no, he's going to lose this game. I mean, there's just no way to survive with the king here.
f6? Yeah.
Rook a7. There might even be bishop e3 at some point.
Yeah, there might be bishop a3. Bishop takes a3.
Oh, that's nasty. Distracting the rook from the 7th rank where it's defending the...
Yeah, that looks like desperation mode. Yeah. Oh, man. It's just f7. Yep, f7.
Isn't this just mate?
Looks like it.
How do you stop checkmate?
I don't... Yeah, and I think Vishy knows it. And Pankratov looking like he is in tip-top shape here to deliver a final blow in a couple of moves, and he will be the last person in Group F to make it to the round of 32. What a battle.
And what a stare Ponkratov has. I mean, that guy's scaring me. I'm not even his opponent.
Yeah, I mean, just a very strange turn of events these last few games. Yeah, Vishy doesn't... I feel like Vishy, once again, doesn't exactly know where the resign button is. I mean, he looks like he's looking around.
Yeah, he's going to resign. And you can just tell by, he's trying to find it. He's not used to it. He doesn't resign very often.
Yeah, I mean, you can sort of see his hand is kind of hovering, and Pankratov does a little head nod. What an attack by Pankratov. Honestly, an excellent game here. Wonderfully played.
Yeah, it was definitely decided before move 1. I mean, 7 minutes, Levy. We were trying to give him the benefit that he has officially resigned. Pavel Pankratov has spoiled all of your brackets except for 5 of you out there. So you can thank him that you don't have a chance at $100,000.
Yeah, what an absolutely amazing day at the office for Pavel Pankratov, who in 4 of these 5 games played like he had been, the favorite in the matchup. He was just rock solid. He was tricky. He was resourceful. And he's still shaking his head because he's kind of unhappy with the way this all transpired, because he was up 2-1 and the last game did not have to go the way it did. He was white. He didn't know exactly how to handle the position when he only needed a draw. And he comes back in the Armageddon because of a crazy wager by Vishy Anand. 7 minutes in the Armageddon.
It's really unthinkable that bid that low an amount of time. And for Pankratov, he's doing the chess player thing. We all know it. When you play a game that you're just like, what was I thinking? That supersedes all of your great moves. He just beat Vishy Anand, right? You would think that he's going to be euphoric. He's going to go running on the street, celebrating, taking himself out to a nice dinner. And meanwhile, he's like, oh, I'm such a bad player. How could I play like that? But in reality, he played a fantastic match. He dug deep. Levy, even from game 1 in that French, he sacrificed a piece for a couple pawns. It was better for Vishy, but not very clear. So Pankratov is sort of the person of the day, but we can't forget that there were 4 other matches, and some of them were quite lopsided.
Yes, a lot of matches today were decided in just 3 games. Maxim Vachier-Lagrave took down Eduardo Iturrizaga. Normally, we have all of the matchups in a group at the same time, but sometimes for scheduling issues, we have to bump things around. Nodirbek Abdusattorov took care of business against Boris Gelfand quite convincingly in a variety of different ways. One was he was a bit assisted with internet connection, but in round 1, he was extremely convincing with the white pieces. And Raunak Sadhwani might have had the most convincing 3 games of the day. I mean, it was from start to finish. It seemed like he was in control of that match. Let's take a look at the bracket in Group F, as we have every matchup finished there. This is not what my bracket looked like. I mean, I anticipated Nodirbek would be going up against Vishwanathan Anand, and it's not a knock on Pavel Pankratov. That is a massive win for him. He picks up a qualification to the round of 32, $5,000 extra as well. On the other side of the bracket, you've got Raunak Sadhwani, whose opponents seem like they're going to get their age cut in half every single matchup if he keeps winning. So you got, Topalov, Giri, and then you have potentially Nodirbek. That's a super exciting one. I don't know what's going to happen. I did predict that was going to be the match, Robert. What do you think? Are we allowed to make predictions?
Of course, we filled out brackets. So, we already made our predictions, and those brackets are public. So I think on the top of that bracket with Anish against Raunak, the way Raunak played was very impressive, but I think Topalov's style played into Raunak's hands somewhat, because Topalov, he loves fascinating attacking chess, and Raunak was able to punish him in game 2 when it was a positional battle, and then all of a sudden Topalov lashed out with c5. That was a mistake, and great awareness by Raunak. But I think Anish, how do you beat that guy? We were talking about Jun trying to beat him in game 4. In general, the guy is so solid, and he plays a lot of bullet chess. So he's got great mouse skills. So I'm just thinking that Anish has to be the favorite, but Raunak has good chances. And the other side of things, Nodirbek, maybe he's the happiest person that Vishy lost, with all due respect to Pavel Pankratov. I mean, the guy played an excellent series of games against Vishy, but I think if you're Nodirbek, you're kind of expecting to play Vishy and worried that you're about to play this former world champion and all his preparation. Pankratov was impressive, but he, also showed that he's very human, especially in game 4 there, where that's maybe inexcusable or unexplainable, inexplicable, whatever word fills in the blank there. That was maybe the most surprising part of this entire day, was that game 4. But when all is said and done, Pankratov, I mean, he deserves a world of credit to make it to the round of 32, winning minimum 10K and beating the legendary Vishy Anand.
Yeah, just incredible. I have to say, it was, we keep sort of preemptively apologizing to him a little bit because we're all in shock. It was an amazing day for him. Now he has to take on the world rapid champion. If you have to make a top 5 potentially to win this entire thing, Nodjebek might be in your top 3. Okay. So it's going to be a very tough matchup for him against Nodjebek. And the only thing I really think that could potentially be a problem for Nodjebek is overconfidence. That's really just it. Like, he had a rough game at the Olympiad versus Hare Krishna. If Pankratov shows up with really solid preparation, I think he's going to be in good shape. I do agree with what you said about Anish Giri. And these are the 3 matchups that will be in our coverage in about an hour and a half, right? We do come back for CGC a little bit later with 2 different hosts. We have Group A, and then we have the entirety of Group D. So Group A is David Navarra versus Mickey Adams. We have Dmitry Andreikin versus Aram Hakobyan. And we have Vladimir Fedoseev versus Garakamsky. Perhaps the most interesting matchup is Fedoseev-Kamsky, but the most intriguing one is the fact that Hakobyan doesn't even have a photo. It's like Mortal Kombat, he's just faceless killer.
Well, I was going to say actually about the other match there, Navarra and Mickey Adams, the single nicest matchup you could possibly make in the world of chess. Like, these 2 people are exceptionally kind and fantastic players. So they're not kind to their opponents over the board, but seriously, I mean, really some of the best human beings on the planet. So that's a really exciting matchup. Those players show so much respect to their opposition. It will be a fun one for sure. And I just got to say, Levy, it's been an absolute blast. What we saw today was just great chess, some mistakes for sure, but ultimately I think Pavel Ponkratov, he is the kind of hero of the moment. All of India is mad at him, but when they get over it, they'll realize that this was a once-in-a-lifetime accomplishment of a player who's been great his entire career, maybe lesser known, but the fact that he was able to take down one of the best players of all time in not just a single game, which happens, of course, when you're a GM, but in a series of 4 games where he lost the 4th and came back in Armageddon. I know we were maybe sounding a bit harsh on Pankratov, but he really just deserves just a huge round of applause from everybody, because that's a marvelous, marvelous achievement.
Yeah, I concur. Absolutely. I agree just wholeheartedly with everything you said. We also were a bit nervous that going into that Armageddon, he would be on tilt. And I think he was definitely boosted up a bit by what will go down as the questionable decision of the match, the talking point of the match of Vishy Anand, knowing he was getting a matchup of 7 minutes versus 15. It was 100% confirmed with staff, at least from what we saw. And for a while, it was going quite well. He got within about 2 or 3 minutes with a stable position, but Pavel just went on the attack, and he deserves full credit for a massive upset. Group F is now set in stone, and we will end our morning coverage of the Chess.com Global Championship. We'll return in about 90 minutes with the entirety and both matchups of Group D, as well as a bonus matchup of Group A. Robert, if I have to wake up at 5:30 in the morning, there's nobody I would rather talk about chess with. All right, so I hope you feel the same. Although I gotta say, you and Naroditsky are a very good duo as well. So I'll be Walmart Naroditsky for you.
I was gonna say that I hope Lucy's not offended by you saying that, but
I'll talk chess. I said talk chess. Maybe I wouldn't eat breakfast or something, but I'd be a little too gross at 5 in the morning. But this was a lot of fun.
It was an absolute blast, Levy. Thanks for joining me, and looking forward to more coverage. And thanks to everybody who tuned in, no matter where you are in the world. This is the Global Championship, so we appreciate all of you from around this globe. And Levy, again, I really got to thank you. It's an absolute blast. Waking up early is tough, but when I got to cover it with you, it makes it that much easier.
I agree, and I think we are going to do the same thing tomorrow, if I'm not mistaken. But we do have more chess for you coming up in 90 minutes. This was the morning coverage of Day 2 of the Chess.com Global Championship, round of 64 knockout. You can go take a break, go have a snack, and we'll see you back here in about an hour and a half.